races into this chase. Johnson's average finish is 6.25. What can he do tonight at a track we once called Jimmy's house? He's also won here 6 times. The Coors Light Pole Award winner is also a chaser. Greg Biffle will lead the field to green with a car that earned a new track record in qualifying. And where is the points leader, you ask? Brad Keselowski has a bit of work to do tonight. He'll roll off 20th, but I find this interesting. The driver leading the points at this point has gone on to win the championship 5 of the last 8 years. It is the promise that comes at the end of this 10-week chase that one driver will hoist that trophy as the 2012 Sprint Cup Series champion. And as we said, leading the way after the first 4 weeks in the chase is a driver who had never before in his Sprint Cup Series career led the championship. That is until this chase. Brad Keselowski leads 5-time Sprint Cup Series champion Jimmie Johnson by 14. The top 3 are separated by fewer than 25 points. Welcome to the ESPN Pit Studio. A beautiful view of the track on this beautiful fall night in Concord, North Carolina. From inside, I'm Nicole Briscoe alongside Rusty Wallace, Brad Doherty, and Ray Evernham. You just saw 3 drivers who are prominently featured in the chase. There is, however, one that we will not see. We won't see him at all tonight. His name, Dale Earnhardt Jr. He is sitting out this race and at least the next week race in Kansas because of a concussion he suffered at the end of last weekend's race in Talladega. It's actually his second concussion in 6 weeks. His first was an undiagnosed concussion after a testing crash in Kansas. So this situation for Dale Earnhardt Jr. was simply too much.
Kenseth with Harvick behind him. Oh, there's contact. Stewart into the middle of the pack and over.
You okay, buddy? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many of them hits like that I could take. Yeah, I know. It's silly. Glad you're all right. We'll talk about it. We'll go to Charlotte.
If this was what we did every week, I wouldn't be doing it. I'll just put it to you like that.
Yeah.
If this is how we raced every week, I'd find another job. It's not safe wrecking like that. It's ridiculous, man. It's bloodthirsty if that's what people want. That is ridiculous that all those cars tore up and everybody's just, oh, ho-hum. No big deal. It's not all right.
The shot at Kansas was around 40 G's, and the shot at Talladega was only 20 G's. It wasn't really that big of a wreck, and the fact that I felt the way I did was what concerned me after the accident at Talladega because it wasn't that hard of a hit. And I knew having them 2 concussions back-to-back was not a good thing. So I needed to go see somebody regardless of whether I wanted to get out of the car or not. So just for my own well-being, I couldn't, if I didn't need to go out and get in a race car and go get hit again, I needed somebody to tell me that because I was going to have a hard time making that decision for myself because I feel perfectly fine, but I don't want to keep getting hit in the head.
This is obviously a very big deal in this sport, but how do you see this impacting Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the long run? Because I know for you, Rusty, you say that if you were in the exact same position, and you have been in the past, that you might not have climbed out of the car.
Well, I might not have got out. If I wasn't hurt, if I wasn't feeling the after effects, I wouldn't get out of the car because he's going for a championship. I mean, but if he was really deep into the points, I think he might have went for it and stayed in, but he's pretty far out of the championship right now, so he elected to get out. But I will tell you, there's many people that would never have done this. I mean, they don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be the guy that got out of a car because maybe there's a concussion, and you come back a couple weeks later, and all of a sudden something does happen. Like you start spinning out, you start crashing. Then you get labeled, hey, this guy can't race anymore. He's got a concussion, and every time he gets in a problem, there's a problem with him. They're going to be looking at him all the time now since he got out of the car. But I do commend him for what he did. He knows his body. He knows what's going on, and things do happen. I'll never forget a long time ago, I had a huge wreck. And for 15 years after that, every single time I shook my head in the shower, I got dizzy. but I was fine driving. Driving was okay, but it had lasting effects. Dale Jr. feels something, but man, this was big that he got out of that car. There's not many competitors that would have done that.
We will continue this discussion in a little bit because obviously the concussion discussion is big, and not just in this sport, but across the board in all sports, particularly in the NFL, as everyone learns more about the long-term effects of not just one concussion, but several, as is the case with Dale Earnhardt Jr. As John Brenkus explained, this isn't about the quality of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s career. It's about the quality of his life.
At Talladega last weekend, Dale Earnhardt Jr. suffered his second concussion in 6 weeks in a collision reportedly measuring 20 Gs. Analysis of footage reveals that Jr. endured at least 5 jarring impacts in various directions. Though it's impossible to pinpoint a single impact that caused the concussion, angular motions of the brain resulted in what his doctor called a diffuse axonal injury. In a concussion, these angular motions stretch neurons, damaging brain cells. This triggers a chemical reaction in which potassium spills out of the cells while calcium seeps in. This chemical imbalance prohibits the affected neurons from firing, shutting down neighboring cells. The symptoms can include headaches, blurred vision, numbness, and reduced reaction times. But a reaction time that's only 1/10 of a second slower can be critical. Because when speeds approach 200 miles an hour, 1/10 of a second is 2 car lengths. And in a sport where athletes battle heat, exhaustion, and forces of up to 3 Gs in turns, it's wise for Jr. to follow the doctor's orders and sit out the next couple races. Because as Jr.'s brain is recovering from a second concussion, it's up to 6 times more susceptible to re-injury. A third concussion could be catastrophic, causing the brain to swell, reducing circulation of blood and oxygen to the brain by up to 50%, and increasing intracranial pressure that could permanently damage brain tissue. For ESPN Sports Science, I'm John Brenkus.
While Dale Earnhardt Jr. is out of the car, Regan Smith will drive that 88 car tonight in Charlotte and next weekend in Kansas. Tonight, he will start 26th. However, we should tell you Regan Smith was second fastest in that final practice. Now, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is obviously the most popular driver in this sport, one of the biggest names in this sport. When big things happened, good or bad, to big names, it forces change. It has an impact. How do you see this impacting this sport?
Nicole, I think this is a huge day for the safety of our sport. Over 10 years ago, we lost Dale Earnhardt Sr. in a crash in Daytona. And because of that crash, we made major safety advances in how we build the cars and how we restrain the drivers. Now with Dale Jr. standing up and saying, hey, I've got to take responsibility as a driver to control my own safety, and I am responsible to let people know that I am hurt. I think it is really going to take us into a new step, and not only just race car drivers, but I think it's going to say to younger athletes, whether they're playing football or hockey or anything, that look, it's not about championships. It's not about streaks. It's about quality of life. I think it's a huge day. It's not about being the tough guy.
No, and he did the right thing, obviously, but I think the impact is going to be interesting as we go forward. I mean, you look back at athletes, and most notably the NHL superstar, young superstar, Sid Crosby, who's had tremendous impact on the game, but because of concussions, the past couple of seasons, he has really been off balance and hadn't been able to participate on a regular basis. And you look at Eric Lindros, also another NHL player who had post-concussion syndrome issues. I'm looking at this, and I talked to a neurologist friend of mine, Dr. Larry Schulhoffen. He was talking about the third concussion, the third closed head injury. It could be fatal, but it is definitely life-altering. I would not be surprised if Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't race again. I hope he does. I hope he races again in a couple of weeks, but it would not be a surprise. Anytime you have a closed head injury, it is ultimately very, very serious.
And Ray, let me ask you this. Why did you quit driving?
Really for the same reason. 3 concussions in a row ended my professional driving career. Might have been the best thing that ever happened to me, though. I wouldn't have ended up here with you guys.
That's
All
right.
Obviously, we wish Dale Earnhardt Jr. a speedy, but more importantly, a full recovery. When we come back, the Talladega fallout is obviously more than just Dale Earnhardt Jr. missing this race. So we ask the question, who has dug themselves too big of a hole to be considered a championship contender? That's when we come back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of Dale Earnhardt Jr. We will take him off the list. Can we agree that Keselowski, Johnson, and Hamlin are fourth place? Great. Moving on. We start with Kasey Kahne.
Hey, he's good. I'm not putting a fork in him. He won 600 last time. He qualified 10th. He's good to go. No fork.
You agree?
No fork for Kasey tonight.
Clint Bowyer. Ray, you're the only holdout.
Yeah, no way. Still the dark horse. Could be right in this thing.
Now, we know that Jeff Gordon was forked by Brad probably at Michigan. You two, Rusty and Ray, you're still holding out. What do you think?
Hey, I picked him for the championship.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
And the last but not least in our segment here, Tony Stewart, the champion 1 year ago. Where is he now? No forks yet. We going to keep it that way?
Yeah, no forks for me. That's for sure. This guy's too good.
He can reel off 4 or 5 in a row like he did last year.
Yeah, no fork. Never bet against the smoke.
Interesting. Okay, so to avoid getting a fork after this one tonight, Mr. Evernham, what does a driver need to do out there?
Well, he needs to make sure they get their car adjusted quickly, because lately we've seen a lot of green flag runs, not a lot of time to communicate with your crew chief, and not a lot of chances to fix your car if it's wrong.
And I'll tell you what, for me, you got to keep up with this racetrack. It's changing all night long, and if you don't change it, if you don't keep working with the car, you're going to be in trouble. I will guarantee you, who starts out good early probably will be nowhere at the end of the race.
Huge event for all the race teams and drivers, all their friends and family here, and you might be racing in front of mama. Don't make mistakes.
It is homecoming weekend. We'll get to those pre-race ceremonies and find out who can avoid those mistakes with Alan, Andy, and DJ coming up next from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Baby, no
It's racing's version of homecoming weekend, the Saturday night in October, where NASCAR drivers and teams compete at the track in the city the sport calls home. But there's more at stake here than just a football game. This is a race in the chase.
Superstars live big. Big stadiums, big toys, big expectations. There's a certain pressure to be at your best when the lights are brightest, because on this stage, you can't fake it. The ones who learn to adapt are the ones who last.
Hey, baby, that's exactly what we want.
A superstar spends their life pushing the limits, chasing greatness.
Tell him I've got to race me.
Give them something to remember long after the last flag.
That's how you do it. Paint a masterpiece.
Superstars are producers of passion and custodians of cool under fire.
I'm going to drive my ass off. Don't sweat it.
Superstars are believers. They believe failure brings success.
That's the way to fight, guys. Chip away, man. We'll get there.
They believe in revolution, in Santa Claus, and in themselves.
No weakness, man. Hell yeah.
Superstars own it, trust it. They're lionized, ostracized, idolized, and uncompromised.
Show it. Hell yeah. Hey, is it going to get big tonight?
That's what being a superstar is all about. Absolutely killing it.
Be at your best when the lights are brightest. An appropriate theme for the only night race in the chase that happens to be in the sport's hometown. ESPN's coverage of the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup continues tonight with the Bank of America 500 live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina. A beautiful crisp fall night, the pre-race ceremony, the command to start engines, and the green flag coming up just moments from now. And topside at the track, Alan Bestwick with 3-time Charlotte-winning driver Dale Jarrett and Charlotte-winning crew chief Andy Petrie. These drivers and teams racing tonight at home and on a fast track.
Yeah, this is a big night for the drivers. They've got family and friends here to watch them. Heck, even the boys from back to the shop want their chance to go to victory lane. But they better be focused. This is a very long, difficult night on a very fast racetrack.
The first big race I ever came to was right here at Charlotte. I can't tell you how pumped up I was to see that. I'm just that pumped up still today. I love coming to this racetrack.
It's one of the drivers' favorite racetracks to race on. Those boys at the shop that work on the cars but rarely come to the racetrack, they're part of that mass on the grid, along with the family, the friends, the neighbors, the kids. And they're all getting lined up now because in just a few seconds, it's time for tonight's opening ceremony before we go green flag racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the Air Force ROTC Detachment 592 from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte presents our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Mike Novak, CEO and President of Adult Contemporary Christian Music Radio, K-Love, offers tonight's invocation.
Let's bow our heads and pray. Father God, thank you for this glorious day, and thank you for allowing us to come together here in Charlotte for a night of racing. We pray for your protection for the drivers, the crews, safety workers, and the fans. We also pray for those that are protecting us, the men and women serving our nation, both at home and abroad. Father God, we pray too for our country, our leaders, and for the freedoms and blessings that we currently enjoy. We ask all of this in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Dove Award-winning and Grammy-nominated artist, New Song.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red there, the bombs were speeding in air, they flew through the
Time now for all those family and friends, guys at the shop, the crews themselves to clear back behind the wall and for the drivers to climb aboard and buckle in for 500 fast and very difficult miles of racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Those ceremonies, the conclusion of what is always an extended pre-race extravaganza at this track that it's been known for decades now. Tonight it included a high wire walk by Nick Wallenda of the famous Flying Wallendas. He went 100 feet above the racetrack, over the grandstands, to over Victory Lane.
Yeah, my hands haven't stopped sweating yet watching this act.
I could hardly watch. I don't even want to watch it again. It was scary.
He was tethered at the start. When he got to the point where he was over the grandstands, he reached behind him, unclipped the tether, and did the rest of that truly high wire walking, ending on that tower 100 feet over the top of Victory Lane, where he rode the ball on that crane down into the winner's circle. It was something.
ESPN's coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series on ABC, presented by
Troy playing a pre-race concert. Big effort here to support our troops, the men and women serving our country. They've got nightclubs. That's an outdoor version of Dale Jr.'s Whiskey River that's a few miles away in uptown Charlotte. And fun for all ages, including the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and more. Pretty fun. And full day here at Charlotte, and all that before we go racing here in the only night race in the Chase, just a few miles north of uptown Charlotte, as they call it, Charlotte Motor Speedway, getting ready for tonight's Bank of America 500. So as we come to the halfway race in the Chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, we check the championship standings, and we find that beginning tonight's race, Brad Keselowski is the championship leader. He's up by 14 points over Jimmy Johnson, basically 14 positions on the racetrack. And what the championship story in this race is on the other side of it basically rests on the roof of that 2-car.
That's exactly right. Brad Keselowski and this team are saying if you're going to get to the front, you have to go through us. They've done it by outrunning the competition, having better strategy, and having a little better luck last week at Talladega. So if you're going to get the job done and outrun these guys to gain points, you better be right up towards the front.
And they're not going to give away any points. This seems really tough. The last 14 races, they've only had one finish outside the top 10. So they're going to be tough, and that's what these teams know. Jimmy Johnson and Denny Hamlin know that they're going to have to really race hard to try to beat this 2-car.
So Jimmy Johnson starting toward the front. Denny Hamlin as well. Brad Keselowski a little deeper in traffic as we get ready to go with NASCAR's homecoming race. The Bank of America 500 at Charlotte, ready to get started trackside.
For the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, Executive Vice President of the Wounded Warrior Project, and retired Staff Sergeant of the United States Army, Dan Nevins.
On behalf of Wounded Warrior Project and the tens of thousands of wounded warriors and families that we serve, I want to thank Bank of America for the opportunity to say, gentlemen, start your engine!
Fire up when you get ready, man.
Fired up. All right, man. You can fire it up whenever you're ready. How's that?
Well done. And we are ready to race in Charlotte for chase race number 5. Our ESPN in-race reporter tonight is certainly one of the favorites to win the race and the chase. Denny Hamlin comes into tonight third in points with some ground to make up after stumbling in the opening chase race at Chicagoland when he ran out of fuel on the last lap. He'd love to follow up his win at New Hampshire, shown here 3 weeks ago, with a Charlotte trophy tonight. We'll ask Denny if he can knock it out of the park again when we come back.
Also unique pressures that come with the home game. The need to perform best in front of those who love you most. Welcome home to Charlotte. Now, get to work.
It is time to get to work for the drivers of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, including the dozen chasing a championship, as they get set to roll out onto the Charlotte Motor Speedway for tonight's 5th race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. It's a home game for Joe Gibbs Racing tonight, based in Huntersville, North Carolina, just north of Charlotte. Coach's driver contending for the title is Denny Hamlin, and he's our in-race reporter for this event on these 1.5-mile tracks. Hamlin and his team have been terrific this season. 2 wins and 4 top 3 results in the last 5 races. He starts 9th tonight.
Denny Hamlin, though, we're just showing your very impressive record on the 1.5-mile racetracks here so far this year. We know that you're looking to get a victory, gain some points tonight. That leads us to our mailbag question from Michael in Virginia Beach, Virginia. He asked, with your recent success this year on the 1.5-mile tracks, including a 2nd place finish in the Coca-Cola 600, what is your approach for this race in order for you to get the win?
Well, you know, it's kind of all out. The best I can say is, you know, we're going to do everything we can. You know, this is our home stretch. We're going to some racetracks here these last 6 weeks that are really, really good for us. And so, you know, every chase I've ever been in the championship battle, we've had to survive the first 4 to get to those last home stretch racetracks. And so, our chase really starts this weekend.
Denny, I've been talking all week about what a fast and difficult racetrack this can be with the 24 degrees of banking, how difficult it can be on the driver. Can you give our fans an idea of what you go through inside there tonight?
Well, you know, the temperatures really dropped overnight, so this racetrack is going to be really, really fast. We're going to see probably fast laps in the 28-second bracket, and that's going to be very, very fast for this racetrack. So you've got to have a car that's going to be stable enough to hold it and a car good enough on restarts to go. So that's our plan.
All right, Denny, well, good luck with that race car tonight. Wish you the best. Thanks for talking with us. Now, Andy's going to talk to your crew chief, Darian Grubb.
Hey, Darian Grubb, Andy Petrie. We saw last night in the nationwide race in these long runs that tire wear was a little bit of an issue. Is that going to be an issue tonight? And how's that going to affect maybe strategy with sometimes seeing long green flag runs here?
It definitely could be. As cool as it's going to be, we're going to see some really fast laps like Denny talked about there.
That's a lot of load in those tires as you get a really long run. If you got a tight race car, you're going to be pretty abusive on it. So we're really hoping that everything's going to go our way, and we're not going to be one of those guys, but you definitely got to manage that and make sure you don't get too tight as you go and let Denny drive it.
Well, how do you expect this racetrack to change? I mean, we hear a lot of guys thinking that it's going to get freer, maybe get tighter. What do you think about it?
It's really hard to tell, but everybody is just going to pick up grip because it's so cool. So if you have a tight car, it's probably going to get tighter just because of the speed. If you have a loose car, it's going to get looser because of the speed, whether the tail or the nose goes out. So we're really hoping to temper that balance, not be too free to start, not be too tight at the end. It's all about making those adjustments and making the right calls at the right time.
I'm sure you will, Darian. You've done it all year. Good luck. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Denny Hamlin, Darian Grubb, our ESPN in-race reporters tonight. Our over-the-wall camera is being carried by J.D. Holcomb, who's the front tire carrier for Jeff Burton's 31 car with Richard Childress Racing. We'll watch your work, J.D. Have a good night. And our ESPN high-definition onboard cameras all ride with championship chasers tonight, including Brad Keselowski with the Dodge on board.
You look awful good down there. 10-4. Let's look good on the last lap.
There you go. Casey Kane's got our sprint on board tonight. And you saw Denny Hamlin with the fresh from Florida Gulf seafood on board camera. The defending series champ Tony Stewart's got the Chevy on board. And Clint Boyer's got our 5-hour energy camera.
Last night the top was better than 1 and 2 on restarts. Guys were just kind of stuck down there and looked pretty loose on the bottom.
Conversation on Clint's radio. There's Jeff Gordon, the Goodyear onboard camera tonight. Kevin Harvick has the Jimmy Johns on board. And Jimmy Johnson has the Lowe's onboard camera.
One lap at a time, one car at a time, one pit stop at a time, one can of fuel at a time, just one at a time, just one. Just remember that, guys.
The pep talk from crew chief Chad Knaus. And let's go down to pit road and get some final stories before the green flag. We begin with Jamie Little. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Alan. Well, you know, point leader Brad Keselowski, he's been on a roll lately. In the first 4 chase races, he's had an average finishing position of 3.75. But tonight could be a new challenge. He qualified 20th, and his crew chief Paul Wolf told me his biggest concern tonight is track positions. He expects a lot of long green flag runs. But he said if we do make it to the front, look out, we're good enough to win. Vince Welch.
And Jamie, if he does, he's likely to have to outrun the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. This place has been his playground. He's won 6 times here. Even at one time, the racetrack was named after his sponsor. But crew chief Chad Knaus says too often this team has made its own mistakes that have cost them here at Charlotte. The 48 may be able to beat everyone else tonight, but if they're to stay in the hunt for a title, they'll need to avoid beating themselves. Dave Burns?
36 points out of the championship lead. Casey Kane needs all the points he can get tonight, and tonight is a huge opportunity. He won the race at this track in May, and he has the second best finishing average among chase drivers at this particular track. Can he make it to the end of the chase as the leader? Well, we'll see if he can make up some ground here tonight. Dr. Jerry Punch.
Folks, 2 hours ago, every Sprint Cup car was either through inspection or in line for inspection except for one. The 24 car was back in its garage stall up on jack stands with all these guys swarming around that car like firemen trying to put out a campfire. That's how focused and concerned they are tonight. They know this guy in the car, Jeff Gordon, is a 5-time winner here. In order for them to get back in this championship chase, they've got to either win or run really, really well tonight. So Alan Bestwick, a lot of pressure on these guys.
Doc, the sparks are flying, and we haven't even thrown the green flag yet. One trend we've seen the last couple of races at Charlotte, a lot of long green flag running. How's that going to affect the driver and pit crew?
Well, as a driver, it's a long night. It's difficult in these 24 degrees of banking. A lot of G-forces when you get down in there. You have to keep your focus. I think with the speeds higher here, these drivers are going to have a tough time with these race cars.
Yeah, they're only going to have a few times to adjust on the car. These long runs, you don't really get your hands on it that many times, so you need to make it count when you make those adjustments.
Our telecast available in Spanish, presented by ESPN Deportes. 334 laps to make up the 500-mile distance in the Bank of America 500. Brad Keselowski, the championship leader, mid-pack for the start in 20th position, hoping to avoid early trouble. Greg Biffle, with a new track record in qualifying, has chosen the outside lane for the start, and we're underway. Mark Martin, 55, trying to get the lead away from Biffle at the end of lap 1.
I believe Biffle nudged him right there.
And Clint Boyer in the 15 trying to join the party up front.
Yeah, just looking for somewhere to go. Martin's got the bottom covered, Biffle on the outside.
We hope that they finish like that at the end of those 500 miles.
Mark Martin would like to have that chance to get back to victory lane right there, and he may before this night's over.
Well, he is not giving up on the bottom there. He is fighting hard. He's going to get a little help. Now, down the back straightaway for Clint. Little push.
Yeah, Clint wants to push him, but you don't want to get him too loose getting into that corner. So Clint's doing a nice job not getting right on his bumper as they enter.
3 laps, side by side for the lead to start the race.
And Mark Martin's going to get that lap, Lynn. It's just incredible racing. It takes a veteran, 2 veteran drivers really, to make all of that work. They're not bothering each other right there. Mark Martin not doing anything crazy, getting his car loose. You can see him back out a little early, jump back in the gas. And then he stays right beside Biffle on the exit.
Boyer, Johnson, Truex, Hamlin, Kenseth in the line behind this double wide race for the lead.
I'll tell you, those guys behind have to make sure that they're concentrating, because that's a great race you're looking at right in front of you. You're just amazed that these two can continue to race side by side at 200 miles per hour.
That's 4 straight laps that they've crossed the line within inches.
And this time, Biffle's going to get it. Now, if that's a trend of what we might see tonight, it's going to be a fun night. As it singles out for the lead, a quick mention, Ryan Newman qualified 3rd fastest. They had to change the engine in the 39 car. By rule, he had to drop to the back of the pack, as did Jeff Burton, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Reed Sorensen also had to change the engine. They went to the back. David Gilliland and Travis Quapple's team had to change transmissions. They went to the back of the pack for the start. Jimmy Johnson, 48. Martin Truex Jr., 56 for 4th place.
I think this is the last time in the last few Cup races here that we've seen this 2nd and even 3rd groove work as well as what we're going to see tonight. I think it's some adjustments they've made to the cars, rule changes. See Jimmy Johnson finally makes that pass on Martin Truex Jr. there. But it really makes for great side-by-side racing.
Yeah, last night in that nationwide race, Joey Logano did such a good job of running his car right up next to the wall and winning that race. I expect to see these cars even more so up there.
Jeff Gordon, 24, picking up a spot on Matt Kenseth. Here's Kevin Harvick to challenge last week's winner, Kenseth. Harvick in the 29. And the man a lot of folks thought was the favorite to win this race, as we ride on board with him, Kasey Kahne.
Yeah, we might not know for the first half of the race if Kasey Kahne's going to be a player in this or not, but you can bet we'll know soon after probably about that 300-mile mark, we see him start marching towards the front.
Front end of that 16 car, got a little trash on it. That Jimmy Johnson's car also. Little paper there on the grill opening.
It's a cool night, but they tape these things up. So they actually are planning on that temperature. So if it does get something on it, it can be a problem for them, even when it's cool out. That's a lot of trash on the front of Biffle's car.
Yeah, that is a lot right there.
He's the first one to get to it, so I guess he's catching all right.
Yeah. And this is what we expected to see in the chase from Greg Biffle. Listen to him talk about his team being ready and prepared. We haven't seen it in the first 4 races, though.
Keep an eye on the temperature gauge in that 16, I trust, Doc?
Absolutely, Alan. They keep asking him. And the last time by, he said, guys, 2:30, and I'm watching it very closely. Every time by, or lap or so, he will give a temperature. Trouble, guys, trouble.
Matt Kenseth, the round in turn 4. And it looks like everyone's going to scatter around him okay.
Well, I tell you, who did a great job there was Sam Hornish. I really don't know how he missed Matt Kenseth right there.
Matt was running in 11th position. We'd seen him lose a couple of spots.
Blew a tire, we broke something in the rear end. I'm not sure what. Put tires on it quick.
Yeah, I think they had some kind of problem with that left rear tire. We've seen a lot of teams playing with that rear suspension, trying to get an advantage there. I don't know if that's what caused this. We've seen a lot of left rear tire rubs this week. You can see that right there, that left rear tire just let go.
Yeah, Sam Hornish was going hard right to the door of Matt Kenseth. He got his car slowed down enough to be able to dodge him to the right side. Just a great job.
Well, this is a great job, too. Look at Matt Kenseth spin this car at 180 miles an hour. Didn't put a scratch on it.
And the championship leader starting back in traffic got an eyeful of this.
Put in front of you, on the bottom, right in the middle, on the bottom, 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 on the bottom. Caution is down here. All right, talk to us.
So Brad Keselowski gets through it okay. Jimmy Fennig, Matt Kenseth's crew chief, trying to diagnose what's going on.
Yeah, he will lose a lap as he came in there. The field came around before they could.
We got the tires over the right rear. The other part of the tire will have to come in and get that right rear cleaned up, guys.
You see a little tire debris that's hanging off the rear end housing there from that blown left rear.
Well, you finish one race in victory lane, and before you get 10 laps into the next race or 15 laps into the next race, you're torn up a little bit.
Yeah, and that racetrack that Matt Kenseth is normally a factor when it comes time to win these things.
He still might be. His car's not torn up. He's actually got pretty lucky there.
Pit road open to the lead lap cars this time. 12 laps in.
No, I don't think so. If I'm up front, I think I'll stay there a while.
Looks like a lot of folks are agreeing with you. First caution out when Matt Kenseth spun in turn 4. We're back to Charlotte after these messages and a word from our ABC stations. Back under the green flag next time the field comes to the start-finish line in the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte. Caution out for Matt Kenseth with a spin in turn 4 out of 11th position. With the exception of last week's win at Talladega, continuing what's been a frustrating chase for the Sprint Cup for Matt.
Yeah, they've had a lot of weird things happening here in the first race of the chase. They lost a shock off the race car. Fell off of it completely.
Doesn't drive very good without that or without the track bar hooked up here at Dover.
And then tonight it doesn't drive quite so well when there's no air in the left rear tire because it's been punctured.
It does free it up a little.
I guess what I'm asking you also is, I know you're going to try, but try to figure out what the cause of that flat was so we can get it fixed. Sidewalls all look good. It looked like he just ran over some kind of flat tire. I don't know, Matt. The sidewalls look good.
Oh, trouble. Front straightaway on the restart. Cars spinning. Jeff Burton's around. David Reagan's around. The caution is back out.
I can't see the front end.
Immediately a bad break for these guys, but a big break for Matt Kenseth to get back on the lead lap.
I think Burton got a lot of damage on that other side, we can't see. You see that left front fender.
Cloud all over top of it.
It was the 9.
That is a not uncommon situation at Charlotte. The area where they make the restarts seems to just be slippery for some reason.
Well, it's so flat there, and there's not a lot of grip. When you try to get up to speed, invariably somebody spins their tires, that backs things up there, and then everybody starts running into each other.
Question is, who's the first one to start slipping and sliding?
Actually had a little stack up before they got going.
Yeah, and I think that all started. Mark Martin, Biffle kind of slowed down. Mark Martin got out front. He had to slow down, and then Biffle took off.
And that just keeps stacking up. The further back you get, and then there's just, see what happened there with Burton. See, Jamie McMurray even jumped out of line. He saw something happen.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick, who was in ninth there, kind of had to pull his nose out as the front 4 in front of him kind of had slowed down. So that's kind of how far up it started, and then just got worse. Looked like Paul Menard had a big spin there too, or spinning of the tires.
I think it started with Mark Martin. Like you said, he was trying to make an adjustment.
Here's Tony Stewart's view.
Got a bunch of
a lot of damage on the 14.
Wrecking behind you, still outside. 3 wide. Caution is out. Caution is out.
Brad Keselowski's team chose to pit under that caution when a lot of their championship rivals did not, and that's the danger they faced, was something happening around them on that restart.
Yeah, that damage you see on that rear bumper is no big deal, but Tony's got a lot of damage on the front of his.
Unfortunately for Matt Kenseth, Scott Speed was just coming off the pit lane ahead of him a lap down, and Scott Speed's going to get the free pass. Kenseth will be left a lap down, and Tony Stewart's left with a mangled up race car.
The Toyota Keys to the Race with NASCAR Sprint Cup team owner and driver Michael Waltrip, brought to you by Toyota.
Stop number 5 in the chase is at NASCAR's home track in Charlotte, North Carolina.
When you head to Charlotte, you're halfway through the chase. That race, when it's over, we're going to know who the contenders are and who the pretenders are. One word that describes Charlotte to me is speed. Sparks are going to be flying and those cars are going to be hauling late in the race. The biggest challenge for the driver is staying physically fit. I mean, we're talking those speeds into the corners close to 200 miles an hour lap after lap. That's a workout. The setups are so precise. You really got a lot of wheel into these cars these days. The biggest challenge for the driver is just understanding this is going to be a really intense ride. It's going to be a really tough 500 miles. Make sure you're ready for it.
Brought to you by the 2013 Toyota Tacoma.
Spectacular sight, this massive 1.5 mile Charlotte Motor Speedway lit up for night racing. The first big track to do so back in 1992, and tonight hosting the Bank of America 500 that, for a race that hasn't had a lot of cautions in the last couple of years, has already had 2 in its opening 18 laps. Which driver do you think will finish highest up among this week's top 4 qualifiers? Greg Biffle, Mark Martin, Ryan Newman, or Clint Boyer? Text FAST to 34763 or go to attfastestdriver.com and play. You could win 4 Gs by playing along in today's AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Every week you have a chance to make your pick and see where you stack up against the rest. Third pit stop for repairs for Tony Stewart, Jamie.
That's right, the third time in, and you see there's a lot of damage on the nose. Barabon tape is their best friend right now. They're pulling the fenders as well. A lot of people want to know, well, how did he get back there? Remember, he qualified 32nd, and after that first caution, he came in for right side tires and fuel to try to help the car. So they're going to continue to work on this, Alan.
All right, Jamie. So, Dale, when we watched that initial replay of the restart, you talked about Greg Biffle and Mark Martin and what might have been going on at the front of the pack on that restart. Greg Biffle has his view of it.
I never sped up, slowed down, nothing. I just held the same RPM and Mark just drove off. I didn't go. We weren't to the line yet. I'd have got for jump at the start if I'd have went when he did.
Well, I mean, I just saw Mark Martin get ahead of him. Now, Biffle says he didn't change RPMs. It was just Mark anticipating, I think, trying to anticipate when Biffle was going to go, and got a little ahead, then had to slow down, and that's when everything started.
Just games drivers play.
That's the way it goes. It'll be the last time we'll probably see some stacking up.
And we were approaching it, and we were about a car length and a half from it. Mark just drove off. Completely just drove off.
That's Greg Biffle on the radio, and lets us get on our radio to our ESPN in-race reporter, Denny Hamlin, running fourth.
Denny, Dale Jarrett, you with us?
10-4.
Hey, man, a lot of action going on behind you. I know you're glad that it's back there running fourth right now. How's your race car, and any different racetrack tonight than what you expected?
No, not really. I mean, everybody was kind of running in a tight formation there at the front to start. It's just the pace is so fast. Aero is, dominant, and so you want to keep your car out front. That's what we're going to try to do right here.
All right, one to go. Thanks for talking, buddy.
As we look down on this Charlotte racetrack from our aerial coverage tonight, and our aerial coverage is provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, of course, the official tire of NASCAR. So let's try this again. And as the caution flew, Clint Bowyer, ahead of one of NASCAR's electronic scoring loops embedded within the track, ahead of Mark Martin at that time. So Clint now the guy to the inside of race leader Greg Biffle, and Martin now back in third position. And another one to keep an eye on in these early going. Actually, another two to keep an eye on in this early going. We'll get there in just a second. Would be the next two, Jeff Gordon and Kyle Busch.
I think Kyle Busch is going to be a factor in this race before it's over. He's led a lot of laps here recently. Doesn't have any wins to show for it yet. Tonight might be different.
Bowyer didn't get the best of restarts.
Yeah, I think the more laps you have on your tires and cycles on these tires of them heating up and cooling down, that inside lane is going to be the most difficult on these restarts. Try to get your speed up and keep your position.
Martin Truex, 56, through to third, behind Denny Hamlin, who now takes second. There's the race report. Bowyer, 15, and the aforementioned Kyle Busch.
Well, he's just back in 8th on this restart?
Yep. And that's an issue to remember if we get that late race caution and scramble to the checkered flag is inside lane, outside lane for the green flag. '55 Martin, 29 Kevin Harvick. 6th and 7th. Bobby Labonte really having troubles on this restart.
Yeah, he stacked the whole field up behind him going into turn 3. Looks like he may have a flat tire also.
Bobby started 15th. You can see he's fallen to the back of the field, but he'll get safely back to the pit lane.
I'm sure some drivers did some really good jobs of missing that because there was a pack of about 15 cars going on him hard.
Remember Dale Earnhardt Jr. out this week and next due to post-concussion syndrome, difficulties after the accident at Talladega and a testing crash at Kansas about 5 weeks ago. Regan Smith getting the opportunity in this 88 car for the next couple of races, and right now doing a pretty solid job. Dave, what's he saying?
Nothing, Alan, and that's a great thing. Very comfortable, very confident. I checked in with his crew. They decided to stay out both of these early caution flag periods, and he's really reported nothing on the race car. Just going forward, he's going the right direction.
15th place for Regan Smith, started back in 26th.
Yeah, he was doing a solid job in practice yesterday. If you saw any of our shows there, he's going to do a really good job in this race car tonight. I think that before this night ends up, he has a solid top 10 finish. This is a very talented race driver.
Now, Regan has been driving that 78 car for the Denver-based Furniture Row Racing. He was displaced from that ride beginning this week because they signed Kurt Busch to drive for 2013. Decided to get a head start on that and have Kurt run the final 6 races of the season.
Yeah, if we could see inside that full face helmet, probably be a little bit of a smile right there as he went by.
On Regan's face?
Yes.
Yeah, what looked like a bad break turned into a great break for Regan Smith to be able to get into a really good race car.
Driver passing the car he was just put out of feels as good as, say, oh, I don't know, a baseball player hitting a walk-off homer against the team that just traded him.
Yeah, absolutely, he does that. And it's a big night for Regan Smith. A couple of opportunities here to showcase his talents.
Championship leader Brad Keselowski in 21st position, and there you see the top 5. Headed by leader Greg Biffle, out in front in the Bank of America 500 in Charlotte. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, Bank of America 500 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Reminding you to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Greg Biffle has been out in front for most of the laps in this race. He started on pole after setting a new track record of over 193 miles an hour in qualifying here on Thursday night. Remind you that you can stay tuned for our NASCAR nonstop coverage during the second half of tonight's race, presented by Bank of America. Look at how fast they are going.
Yeah, we heard Denny Hamlin talking about just how fast it was here tonight. We expected high speeds, and when you get the drivers talking about it, because they're used to going fast, and when they start mentioning it, you know that the speeds are up there.
So the couple of quick cautions early in the race, and again, Greg Biffle has led all but 2 of the laps so far. And let's go up to speed with Nationwide Insurance. Check in on some of the drivers competing for the championship. We start with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Up front, the guy leading the race here, Greg Biffle, and Biffle certainly talked about the fact that the one that got away was back in May. And of course, where he led over 200 laps here and had issues because he took 2 tires late. Let's go back upstairs, guys. I got a smoker on the racetrack.
Yeah, and a caution flag, Doc. The caution for Paul Menard, who's been into the wall in the 27.
Okay, we'll do 4 tires here and get the Packer into right front. Okay, we're going to spin early here, guys. Be ready.
You're going to need a little more than that, I think.
Yeah, they might need to work on it a little bit more.
Third caution already in this race. Well, at least we know where you can go to get some paint to fix that thing up.
He's hit it pretty hard.
Paul was running in 36th place at the time, so
you get it in there.
He was dropping back like he knew something wasn't right.
It sure has the makings of a right
4
front
tires
tire
to regroup here. We can get it on there.
Whether they ran over something or they had a rub there. Had to be something like that. These tires just don't fail.
Yeah, yeah. So while the Richard Childress Racing team tries to get that little situation under control, the pit road's going to be open for the lead lap cars here.
You see that little fire, that's no big deal. It's just some rubber on the brake rotor.
And as the front runners come in, expect to see the possibility of some different strategies played out here, Dave.
The 15 bunch is calling for 4 tires right now. Clint's car went from loose to tight. They're just going to put a piece of tape on the nose, 4 tires, and Sunoco fuel. Vince?
And Jimmy Johnson in the middle of your screen. Jimmy wants a little bit more security. They're going to give him a chassis adjustment. It's going to be a 4-tire change for the Ford. No, 2 tires for Jimmy Johnson. They call that off. Denny Hamlin on the 4-tire change on the bottom of your screen. A little too free to start, Doc.
Pole sitter and leader Greg Biffle. They're going to do 4 tires, half around a wedge. A little bit of a change air pressure wise, a little bit free on the racetrack. Cars going by. Biffle now down and away.
Big strategy session there is going to shuffle up the running order.
Yeah, you see a lot of 2 tires, but how about Regan Smith in that 88 car? He gained 6 spots. Let it mark.
Under caution. At Charlotte, we're back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Aerial coverage tonight provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Beautiful look down at Charlotte Motor Speedway, lit up for night racing. There'll be a stadium lit up for night football on Monday night. Coverage starts at 6:30 with Monday Night Countdown, served by Applebee's. Then at 8:30, an AFC West showdown. Peyton Manning and the Broncos make their way to San Diego to take on Phillip Rivers and division-leading Chargers. Monday Night Football, Broncos-Chargers, Monday at 8:30 on ESPN.
Football's in the air on that night between those 2 quarterbacks.
You think, huh? Be a fun one. They continue to work on the Paul Menard car on the pit lane. This replay goes back about 15 laps. So he got into the wall there, and then probably that put a fender in on a tire, speculating here, that then led to the damage that
That makes sense.
Yeah. Doubling up for the restart. We check with Jamie.
Well, Paul Wolf, the crew chief for Brad Keselowski, told me biggest concern was track position, getting you guys to the front. You've done that. Is the car and the tires good enough to stay up there, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. The Miller Lite Dodge was really good yesterday, and initial signs here was ahead good speed. Just track position is going to be big tonight. So the way the cautions flew there early in the race, it put us in an opportunity to pit when the leaders stayed out, and put us in a close enough window where we were able to make this move here.
Now, how's the car performing so far on the restarts and the balance overall?
He hasn't complained yet. It's too hard to tell being back there in the dirty air, but overall I think we'll be fine.
Okay, they're looking good right now, Alan. P1.
That the crew chief, Jamie. Here's the driver talking to the spotter.
What lane's been the good lane on restarts, the bottom or the top, Joe? No, the leader's been taking the top and getting around. Very initial start of the race, the 55 was able to hold the bottom, but he eventually got by up top.
All right, so gathering the information needed. So let's reset the situation here. 2, Brad Keselowski is the leader. 9, Marcos Ambrose also did not pit. There are a dozen cars that took just 2 tires on the pit stop. The first on the restart with 4 tires is Denny Hamlin in 9th. Greg Biffle, who led to the caution flag, is now back in 12th position.
Got a great run through 1 and 2. His car's got some damage too from that one stack up we had on the restart. Doesn't look like it's hurting him much.
Jimmy Johnson working on Kevin Harvick. Keselowski squeezing his way between the grass and Marcos Ambrose through this front stretch section.
You heard his crew chief Paul Wolf talking about they had a really good car in yesterday's practice, and they knew if they could get this thing out running, they'd be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, one of their biggest problems all yesterday qualifying, they just don't seem to be able to get that one lap to get that good starting position. But once that car gets up front, they're hard to beat.
Got some steam, Tony.
11, Denny Hamlin. 5, Kasey Kahne. 6th place.
This 11 car has had speed since the first time they went on the racetrack Thursday afternoon. They had a little issue getting it to be able to make a lap. I think the car was hitting and things. You see Jimmy Johnson take over that second spot now. Have his sights set on Brad Keselowski, but Denny Hamlin will be a car to watch coming up through there with 4 tires.
By the way, that 9 car, you talked about the damage there, very obvious on the front end. They pitted 3 times to fix that damage at lap 19. And then the crew making the call to stay out here and try and get some track position that they lost for the repeated pit stops.
Yeah, looks like a good call, though. I mean, the car's running pretty good. I'm surprised how good it's actually running. He's losing a few spots, but he's able to hang up there with it.
Going to give up a spot to Kevin Harvick there. Now we talked about at the very top of our race telecast tonight that the championship story hinged on how the 2 fared in this race. Right now, he's leading.
Yeah, when he's going to run up there, and what we've seen so far doesn't make us think any different, that he's going to be right there inside the top 5, which is going to make it very difficult to gain points on him.
Update on Denny Hamlin from Vince.
Well, just to add on what DJ was talking about and how quick they were off the trailer this weekend. And another thing that Darian Grubb was really pleased pleased with is they felt like they had a real good control over the chassis during practice when they made adjustments. If they wanted it to go tight, they felt like they were spot on with their adjustment. If they wanted it to free up, they were good with their adjustment. So he said that balance and being able to keep up with the racetrack as it might change throughout the course of the night gave them a lot of confidence that they had a good car, one that just might be the guy to beat as you see him going by.
Picks up that third spot from Kevin Harvick, Vince. And Andy, I don't think there could be anything more confidence building for a crew chief on top of the pit box than being able to predict what an adjustment was going to do to your race car.
Yeah, that is. When you make that adjustment, you can have that kind of confidence in it, yes.
I mean, it's always an educated guess, but when you try A in practice, expecting it to do A, and it does A,
that's good.
That's like, all right, here we go.
And there's a driver making his way towards the front. Casey Kane, who won the Coca-Cola 600 here back in May. He's got a lot of confidence in his crew chief, Kenny Francis. They've been together a lot of years, and their communication is fantastic, and that's what gives them opportunities like this to win.
Joey Logano in the 20, one of the teams that went for just the right side tires on the pit stop, giving up a couple of spots here since the restart. Carl Edwards, 99, moving forward. And Jeff Gordon, 24, trying to regain some lost ground by taking 4 tires on the pit lane when a lot of others chose to get just 2.
I think this 24 probably needed 4 to make some adjustments. They were not very good in practice, just they made some wholesale changes before this race, I believe.
Yeah, they didn't look very happy after happy hour, and they made a lot of changes. We heard Doc say at the beginning of the show that they were the last car to get off of the jack stands and through inspection.
Right side, Eric Almirola, 43, working on Logano in 20 for a position. That'd be for 16th and 17th. Top 2 in the championship. Running first and second. Brad Keselowski leading. Jimmy Johnson trying to track him down.
From Charlotte to Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, where we are 58 laps of 334 laps complete tonight. Brad Keselowski, the points leader, leads the way, but the 5-hour energy rapid recap will get us caught up on what's happened so far. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not in the 88 car tonight. He is recovering from a post-concussion syndrome that he had after the wreck last weekend in Talladega. You're looking at Regan Smith, who's currently in 10th place. Out on the track, trouble for one of our chasers, and Matt Kenseth very early on.
Yeah, Matt continues to have issues on the racetrack. I mean, this has been a tough chase for Matt Kenseth. Left rear tire goes down, gets into the wall a little bit, scrapes up the right rear. Another tough race for Matt Kenseth where he has a problem.
And trouble for Tony Stewart. Lap 16 on the restart, gets crunched up. Damage.
Yeah, he picks the throttle up trying to get going and just clobbers the back of the 2 cars. Got his bumper all messed up. They're spending time trying to fix the front fenders, reshape the nose of that car because aerodynamics is so critical here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Stewart right now in 18th, but on the lead lap. Out front, the top 2 drivers in points. Brad Keselowski being chased by Jimmy Johnson. Keselowski out front because he stayed out from 17th. Did not pit under our last qualifying.
That's right, Nicole. We've seen Brad Keselowski and crew chief Paul Wolfe take an aggressive pit strategy before on the fuel side that's helped them. Now, it looks like, according to our calculations, they're going to have to pit 15 to 18 laps sooner than the other cars, which may get them in trouble tonight. This battle that we're seeing on track right now, I think these guys are trying to stop one another from leading the most laps. This is an important battle on the racetrack. To gain those points, there are points awarded for the guy that leads the most laps. Jimmy Johnson wants to pass the 22, punch 2.
Smoke coming out of that 88 car, Alan.
You see some trash on the grill there, Nicole. Don't know if that contributed to it.
Yeah, oil pressure. Completely off.
No caution. We stay under green. And Regan Smith, running in 10th position, is coasting.
That's a shame. He's doing a really nice job in that car.
Flashed. It was red for a while.
All right, so Regan Smith will go back around to the garage. I started to say one of the Hendrick engines failed in yesterday's final practice session. That was Ryan Newman's. I talked to Scott Maxim with Hendrick Engines in the garage area today. They did an investigation into that engine as best they could. He said, looking at that, and in all of our pre-race inspections that we've done today, we didn't find anything that would concern us out of the ordinary that wouldn't normally concern us before a race at Charlotte under these high-speed, high-stress conditions.
Yeah, I've seen another one that might concern them. That's even though it did, I saw some of that debris. That could have caused it to overheat and be a problem, but I'm sure that they're concerned about this one. How about it, Dave?
Well, they talked about the temperatures. It certainly was hot, but more than that, it was a terminal problem, according to crew chief Steve Letarte. So done for the night, and a great run this weekend for Regan Smith, who just did such a fantastic job all through practice and all through qualifying, and then in this race, just maintaining the integrity of this team, showing what he can do behind the wheel, and really doing Dale Jr. and the whole 88 bunch proud.
Well, unfortunately, he's not going to get the kind of laps and the opportunity to show race long what he could do with that car tonight. He'll get another chance next week at Kansas, but Regan Smith running 10th when he went to the garage just shy of 100 miles at Charlotte. Now, Ray was talking about Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolf and the strategy they played. This two-car last pitted at lap 13. The 48 car, Jimmy Johnson, you're riding with, pitted at 37. That's a 24-lap difference on fuel between these top two.
Yeah, I was looking at it, just seeing how many more laps. This two-car always gets really good fuel mileage. We'll see just how far he can go here.
Yeah, a few laps of caution factored in there also. So see Jimmy Johnson now. I think Brad's just going to, well, he's going to move to the high side. I was going to say let him go, but I think that might be part of a little game that Brad likes to play.
And that two-car also with that little piece of trash on the grill. How about the two and their strategy, Jamie?
Yeah, he does like to play that game, DJ. You're right there. And Brad on the radio, calm as can be, reporting back that he's just a little bit tight right now. We're looking at them pitting around laps 73 to 76 at this point. But we all know Brad likes to stay out there and play this game with Jimmy, so there's no telling when he's actually going to pit.
Now, last year, in the first 350 miles of this race, there were only two cautions, and they were both for debris. We had the three quick yellows tonight. Are we now on one of those long green flag runs that could affect the running order where this opposing pit stop schedule is concerned? Johnson has taken over the race lead in the Bank of America 500 as Brad Keselowski yields that top spot to come to pit lane for a green flag stop. And it was close. He and Johnson a second ago, Jamie.
It sure was coming on the pit road. Brad saying, I just can't stay at this pace. The car's getting too tight. So he brought it down pit road. This is the first time they're taking 4 tires. Of course, they pitted on lap 13. They took right sides and fuel. So now he is full once again, 13.1 seconds, while Jimmy Johnson is the new leader.
Marcos Ambrose also in. Remember, he stayed out under that last caution when all the other front runners made pit stops, Jamie.
And he's pitting as well for 4 tires and fuel. They're going up on the track bar. They thought that the damage earlier actually helped him aero-wise, so he's been pretty happy with the car tonight.
So the lead goes into the hands of Jimmy Johnson now. Johnson, we saw before we went to the commercial break, dogging Keselowski for the lead. And when Keselowski started to slow for pit road, there was lap traffic around the front two. And it was almost a big, big moment. Watch this.
Yeah, this is a tough pit road to get on. You're still in the racing groove, and Jimmy Johnson wide open back in the throttle there. See just how close that was. Wow.
Yikes. So Jimmy has a 2-second lead now over Denny Hamlin. Keselowski is a lap down in 30th position. And he is the 4th car 1 lap down at the moment. Were the caution to come out sometime in another 15 or 20 laps or so. Denny Hamlin, after that 4 tire change on the pit stop where he restarted 9th, has now clawed his way up to 2nd. And we're just past 100 miles of the Bank of America 500. Jimmy Johnson now the leader. Back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Announcing on Thursday. He would not be able to compete this weekend next at Charlotte after suffering a hard hit in a testing crash at Kansas Speedway 5 weeks ago and then being involved in the last lap multi-car wreck at Talladega last Sunday. Regan Smith was in that 88 car tonight, running 10th, Dave, but now he's out of the race.
Yep, he's out of the race now. I stepped over here. Regan, talk about what you felt before this all gave way and how your weekend went.
Well, I felt a really fast race car. That's what I felt, and it's disappointing. It's a shame, but all the folks at Hendrick Motorsports do an awesome job. I really appreciate everything they've done for me this weekend. Stevie and the guys gave me about as fast of a car as I could have needed to have a really good night. Got a little loose after that first adjustment, and not sure what happened yet. I think might have over-revved a little on pit road. We'll have to look at it and see in the data what took place. We'll go to Kansas. We got 3 days to test there. When we get there, I'm getting comfortable in these cars, comfortable with the feels and with the equipment, and just proud of all these guys with Amp Energy National Guard Chevrolet.
Should be fun to see next week. Alan?
Hi, Dave, and left of the screen, you've been watching a round of green flag pit stops begin to unfold for a lot of the leaders now. Jamie?
And Joey Logano in the 20, you see him there, the bright orange cars that go to work on the right-hand side. Joey Logano winning here in big fashion last night, taking home his 8th win in the Nationwide Series in just 18 starts. They work on the left-hand side. Joey been pretty happy with this race car so far. It'll be 4 tires, and they'll fill it up with Sunoco. Vince?
The 11 of Denny Hamlin, he took 4 tires the first time, going to take 4 again. Car still tight across the center. They're also going to pull a spring rubber out of that left rear, try to get him freed up a little bit. Here comes the 48 of Jimmie Johnson. Jimmy feeling like it's still a little bit tight across the center. They took 2 tires, just right sides only on that first pit stop tonight. They're going to go a 4-tire change this time. Also going to go a half round down in the left rear, right side chassis adjustment there for Jimmie Johnson as they make that 4-tire change for the 48.
Tony Stewart kind of held ground there after taking just a couple of tires on that last pit stop, Jamie.
I think he's driving angry, Alan. He has been going to the front. They were worried about speed on this car in practice. They felt like they were off a tick, a 10th actually. Right now, 4 tires. Remember, he pitted 4 times earlier when he had damage on the front end. Things have been pretty good. He hasn't said anything on the radio. Doc?
Jeff Gordon coming back in, and originally dropped back on the original pit stop. They had pulled a rubber out of the left rear, and he said the car now still will not turn very tight when it lands from landing off. Going to put 1.5 rounds in the right rear, 4 tires and fuel for the 5-time Charlotte winner and 4-time NASCAR champion. Left side tires going in. Got to get it completely full of Sunoco fuel. Being deliberate. Lug nuts on left. Little problem with the left rear, and now he is finally down and away over 15 seconds, guys.
All right, Doc, so that completes the round of green flag pit stops. First, no caution that put Brad Keselowski in a bad situation. And by being out there from lap 72 to lap 84 on fresher tires than Jimmie Johnson, he's extended a lead.
Yeah, he was beating Jimmie Johnson somewhere between 5 and 6/10 of a second a lap on those fresher tires. We'll see how long they are able to stay with him, but he came back out and he's got over a 5-second lead right now.
Now, Jimmy ought to be able to close that now because he has the fresher tires at this point.
So we'll keep an eye on that interval.
Yeah, but when Keselowski was out there, he was running lap 29.80s, where Johnson was running 30, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Right now, Brad Keselowski's still running just over 30 seconds flat to about a 30-10.
There's Jimmy. So that's the gap, first to second, 4.7 seconds. And there's Denny Hamlin running third, followed by Kasey Kahne and Kevin Harvick.
Now you talked about could this be that long green stretch. These drivers were prepared for that. They saw that happen in the Coke 600. That's a long, grueling race, and of course, just 100 miles shorter here tonight, so it makes for a difficult night, but they were very much prepared.
And still running laps, averaging 183 miles an hour, meaning they're probably doing 194, 193 into the corners. In the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte, Brad Keselowski, Jimmie Johnson, 1 and 2. We take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint network. Brad Keselowski has led the most laps tonight. The championship leader is starting the night. And he's out front now. But not nearly by as much as he was before. And the fastest speed in the race tonight turned by the current third-place driver, Denny Hamlin. Almost 187 miles an hour. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app. Only from Sprint. Get the app and Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. So it was a 5-second lead from Keselowski to Jimmie Johnson. And as you said before, on those fresher tires.
Yep, here comes Jimmy on his fresh tires. Make this pass easy.
Yeah, I thought it would take quite a bit longer than that for him to catch up, but he's been knocking off some really fast laps as this 48 car. And he has to do this because the worst thing's happening, as Alan just pointed out, Brad Keselowski's led the most laps. These guys trying to run him down the points can't have that.
Remember that in NASCAR, a driver that leads any lap during the race gets 1 bonus point toward the championship, and the driver that leads the most laps in a race gets a bonus point toward the championship. And last year, when we got down to the final lap of the final race of the season, 2 drivers were tied with points. So every single one of those bonus points, these drivers all know they've got to go get.
I know there's a difference in tires right now, but I don't think that the 2 cars, this run here is as good as he's had. I think he's off a little bit. They need an adjustment.
Look at that right-hand column. That's why these are the guys racing for the championship.
Makes sense to me.
They're running up front and winning races.
Yeah, and that's whenever we see this even more on these very difficult racetracks. It's whenever these top teams and drivers really shine.
Highest runner that is not a championship driver in this race is Kyle Busch. He's running in 6th position at the moment. See the leader, Jimmie Johnson, coming up in the back of a red and white 51 car with a big smiley face on the hood. A.J. Allmendinger, part of that whole sequence of driver movement that started when Dale Jr. stepped out of his car. Kurt Busch took over the 78. They put Regan Smith in the 88. Smith was supposed to drive this 51 this weekend for James Finch and Phoenix Racing. In need of a driver, he went and grabbed A.J. Allmendinger, making his first start since late June. Allmendinger ran afoul of NASCAR's substance abuse program just prior to the start of the Daytona Race Independence Weekend. Was suspended by NASCAR, successfully completed their road to recovery. Was reinstated a while back and is in his first race tonight since late June.
He raced his way back on the lead lap against Brad Keselowski, and then here comes Jimmie Johnson, putting him back down a lap.
And the Dinger running in 22nd position. Let's follow up on that conversation there Andy had just a minute ago, that the 2 just not as fast since that last pit stop. Jamie?
Well, that's a good observation. Before that last stop, he said he was a little tight, and all they did was make an air pressure adjustment. But Brad now saying he is a little bit loose off all 4, so all the way around, and he's a little tight in the middle, so it's getting worse earlier than the last run.
All right, Jamie, thanks.
Yeah, this is one of those racetracks that you have to be careful. You get yourself over that edge. You think that you're a little too tight. He was up there leading the race, holding Jimmie Johnson back behind him, and he had older tires than Jimmy did at that particular time. You step over that line to get that car too free, and you just can't use the gas. Therefore, you're giving up a lot of speed. You see Denny Hamlin running him down now.
And the thing you have to remember, we're only 150 miles into this race. There's a lot of time to go. You don't want to step over that line right now. Mark Martin trying to claw his way back toward the front. Remember, Mark started on the front row in that 55 car. Got shuffled back, first of all, by being in the wrong line on a restart. A restart line, the inside lane got kind of jumbled up. Lost some track position there. And then on a pit stop, team went for 4 tires when some others went for, actually, no, they went for 2 tires on that stop, didn't they? So he's just trying to dig his way back.
All of these guys' biggest problem are those first 3 cars are so fast, they've separated themselves from a lot of the pack.
That's a race now. You see Allmendinger in that 51 and Montoya in that 42 racing for that spot to try to be first car lap down. Well, we have a racer second behind them.
Yeah, important if the caution comes out to be that first car lap down. Get the free pass, get back on the lead lap. Denny Hamlin try to pass Brad Keselowski, 11-2. You're looking at the two guys that have won the most races so far this season on the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Five apiece. Winning 5 races in a season against this kind of competition.
Hey, winning 1 a season against this competition, to win 5, you are something.
It's a big deal. And this all going on a good chunk behind Jimmie Johnson, the 5-time champ, out in front of the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte, but still very early, just past 150 miles into the race. Just been through a round of green flag pit stops, and in a race that's got a very high pace, they're about to face another one and have to go over the wall again to do their 12.5 to 13-second athletic ballet. It's race 5 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup from Charlotte Motor Speedway as you look down on this beautiful 1.5 mile track from our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. And when we leave Charlotte, it's on to Kansas Speedway next weekend. The newly repaved and slightly reconfigured banking in the corners of that track. Nationwide Series next Saturday, 3 Eastern on ESPN. And the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Kansas, presented by Dodge. A week from tomorrow, next Sunday, starting at 1 Eastern Time, race 6 in the chase. Drivers and teams are going to get a shot at 2 days of testing on that Kansas track, not only to search out the best setup on the new layout, but also it'll help kind of break in that new pavement and probably make for a better race on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. These drivers are liking the idea. It's a lot of time in the race car, but they know that's important to try to get to 1, 2, possibly even 3 grooves worked in that track, get some rubber down to put on a good show for the fans.
So Jimmie Johnson out in front of this race. There was a time when Jimmie Johnson owned this racetrack, when he just couldn't get beat when he and this 48 team showed up at this speedway. And then they repaved the racetrack, and since they've been good, they just haven't won as many races and haven't owned what they used to call our house. Jimmie Johnson, in his words, of why things just haven't gone as well since they redid the track surface.
We had an advantage with the old surface, and then they ground it, and we still were on top of things. And then the repave was really a great equalizer, and I think kind of tipped things towards Kasey Kahne's hand, if anyone's. So you know, we really hope to be back to our winning ways here. It'd be a good time to have that happen. And I still love the racetrack. There's you know, a lot of the 1.5 miles looks similar to a lot of people, but inside the car on the racetrack, this one drives way different than any of them, and it's fun.
Make sure that everybody knows that the advantage Jimmy's talking about, they weren't giving him an advantage. It's something he and his team figured out in his driving style, and they were almost unbeatable, as Alan said.
One of the things is this track's nowhere near the same. I mean, when it was like that before, it was a lot slower, a lot bumpier, and now they've done an incredible job of resurfacing this place, and it's held up real well, and it definitely races different. Makes a different setup to be good here now.
Pits are looking good right now in this 48.
Well, they sure are. Remember, they won the All-Star race here in May, and that was in this same race car. So they knew they brought a good piece back here this weekend. But Chad Knaus told me today they feel like they've beaten themselves. They've made mistakes. They had a pit road miscue that cost him in the 600 a stop-and-go penalty, put him a lap down. He ended up 11th. He said, if we don't beat ourselves, we feel like we can be the car to beat tonight. And so far, they've looked pretty good in that role. Right now, Jimmie Johnson says just a tick tight in the center, but otherwise it's real good. They're about 18 laps from a pit stop.
And if they're 18 laps from the pit stop, then judging by the last cycle, that's going to put Brad Keselowski about 6 laps from his pit stop. Thank you, Kerry. The one, subtract. Okay. I got to change the batteries in that calculator.
The stats guy was behind you holding up 6 fingers.
I'm telling you. I got good grades in math at school, you know? Clint Bowyer, 15. Started up front. He's losing a spot there. That'd be 10th place to Carl Edwards. He just lost. And you really heard him pedaling the car there.
Yeah, sure did. It's pretty tight whenever you stand the throttle trying to make that pass. I haven't said a lot about the 99 being in the top 10, but we expected Bory to run up in the top 5, Dave.
And he expected to do much better after that last pit stop when he reported that his car wouldn't turn, so they made an air pressure adjustment to try to attend to that, keeping in mind that sometimes this track goes loose, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't 5 or 10 laps in when he reported it still won't turn, and that's still the case.
So Clint Bowyer finds himself outside the top 10 as we come up on another round of green flag pit stops.
It's kind of surprising that this team has struggled on these mile-and-a-half racetracks with Bowyer behind the wheel. Got a good crew chief in Brian Patty that always seems to be able to figure these type tracks out, and he's got teammates in Mark Martin and Martin Truex that have run well on the mile-and-a-half.
And if you're going to have a shot at this championship from here on out, you better get those mile-and-a-halves going, because 4 of the final 6 races are on 1.5-mile speedways. Jimmy Johnson putting Ryan Newman a lap down in the 39. Denny Hamlin in second there. And there's the gap back to Brad Keselowski in third. Went from 5 seconds ahead after Johnson completed his pit stop to now 4 seconds behind.
Pit fish, 10 back, single car, pitting this time.
See if this run to pit road's as exciting as the last one was.
He's got a little more space there. Nobody right on his bumper battling for the lead.
It's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road for safety. Certainly don't want those mistakes. Vince was talking, that Chad Knaus was saying we made mistakes ourselves. Don't want a pit road speeding penalty or a collision on the pit lane there, Jamie.
That's right. His crew made a mistake last night by having fuel issues, not getting enough in, and he feels like he had one of the best cars, could have won the race. So that's weighing on this pit crew's mind as well. There's a wrench in the back window, filling it up with Sunoco fuel. Every second counts on these green flag stops. Good stop for Brad Keselowski. Doc?
Nationwide Series champion Ricky Stenhouse making only his third start of the year. Car very, very tight. It's a former Greg Biffle, number 16 car. He's hit on the pole with a couple of times last year. Going to make an air pressure adjustment for the car very tight in the middle and a little bit loose up off. Stenhouse coming off a 12th place run at Dover. He ran 11th here in his debut in a Cup car last May. Down and away.
So the top 2 continue on. Expect to see them in another handful or less of laps. Clint Bowyer, Aric Almirola in. Dave?
And for Clint Bowyer, the car that still won't turn, adjustments going on for him at this point. They'll take on 4 tires again. Clint hoping that they'll be able to make this car turn the center of the corner. 5-car of Kasey Kahne in as well. Kasey had been running in the 4th position. He reported early in the run that it was a little bit tight on landing, and then also that he was hitting the splitter. So they'll make an air pressure adjustment for him on this, and also make an adjustment to the left front packer. That is a shock absorber adjustment in the left front.
Greg Biffle's in, Kevin Harvick's in. Doc?
Left side of your screen, Kevin Harvick said, guys, whatever you did last time, it did not help me. I was very, very loose and heading around a wedge. Made an air pressure adjustment this time, 4 tires. Right side of your screen, Greg Biffle. 1 round down on the track bar. Said, guys, I'm really free. If you'll tighten me up, I can get this thing back to the top 5 and head back to the front. Both away.
Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Martin Truex Jr. in. Jamie?
Mark Martin's had a pretty good car tonight, but they do need to keep adjusting to get it as good as they expect it to be. 4 tires here. Mark Martin making his 850th start here tonight. Unbelievable. First race, 1981. Here he is running with the front pack top 10 all night, Vince.
The 56 of Martin Truex Jr. came into this race 8th in the chase standings. He says he's just too tight in traffic. You see him making his way down pit lane. 4 tire change, air pressure adjustment, also added some tape to the grill.
There's fresh tires for you.
Yeah, and that's really difficult when you're the driver that's still out there on the older tires. You can lose some extra time by that happening. Denny Hamlin then, Vince.
Still too tight. He's been complaining about that throughout the course of the night. He says, you helped my exit, but the center is not good enough. It's an air pressure change. 4 tires for Denny Hamlin, cleaning off that grill as well. Put a little tape on there. Jamie?
And last stop, Tony Stewart, they made some adjustments there, and they said that wedge adjustment really helped him. They feel like they really made some gains on it. Tony been working his way forward. He and Steve Addington working together to make this car better. Those adjustments, the fixes on the front end, really been helping him tonight. 4 tires, they'll fill it up with Sunoco fuel. Let's go to Dave.
Kyle Busch had been running in the 5th position. His car started out well from the changes they made, but then went to the tight side. Wedge wrench going into the left rear of the 18 car. The 17 of Matt Kenseth is on pit road as well. Still a lap down, but a really good car. He told his crew, let's stay in this, get the lucky dog, and try to do our best. Doc?
Jeff Gordon in, so whatever you've done, it hasn't worked. You took the rubber out of the left rear. We take a wedge out. Now it is still tight a little, but now I'm also 3 off. You're going to put 4 tire fuel, 2 rounds out of the right rear. Gordon now down and away, trying to get some help from the middle of the corner.
And still Jimmy Johnson leading. The only one of the lead lap cars to not make a pit stop in this cycle.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson's losing time. You can see him trying to get down here now. He was trying to get there last time, I believe, but he had a car right on his bumper. If he'd have slowed down, he'd have gotten run over at that time. But they've been losing a lot of time staying out here.
Watch the 43 of Aric Almirola. And Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin side by side up front while Jimmy Johnson goes to the pit lane, Vince.
Just want to make sure they make no mistakes on pit road. Chad Knaus reminding his crew to be rock solid. Another minor chassis adjustment, 4 tire change. Just a tick snug in the center. The entry and the exit, not bad. A good stop, 13-2 for Jimmy Johnson.
So Denny Hamlin by Brad Keselowski. And they'll come up on Jimmy Johnson as he comes up to speed off the pit lane.
They're going to go by Johnson by him staying out there that long, and his lap time's getting up there in the 30-50, 30-60 bracket. He's going to lose time to both of them.
So Denny Hamlin on that exchange of pit stops is going to become the new leader of the Bank of America 500. We're back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back live at Charlotte for second place. Jimmy Johnson tracking down Brad Keselowski and going by in the Bank of America 500. As we're just across 200 miles in this one. The top 2 in the championship back and forth a lot of the night for first place. Now they've got some ground to make up. That speck off in the distance. That's that 11 car, Denny Hamlin, who's now the race leader after that just completed exchange of green flag pit stops.
Looks like they made the right adjustments on Denny Hamlin's car to get him just a little bit more speed. Got his chance to get out front for a while.
And right now, the fastest 2 cars are the 48 and 11. I don't know if Brad's car is just it's because he's on this sequence where he has to pit a little sooner and he has more laps on his tires, but his car just hasn't been as good as it was that one run when he led a lot of laps.
So Denny Hamlin, one of 7 drivers that have traded the lead 10 times tonight, and Marcos Ambrose is struggling.
Yeah, he's had a little problem. Saw him get into the wall just a lap and a half ago off of turn 2. Got some more damage on the right side of that car now.
Oh, look at those hands.
Yeah, that's driving around like he thinks he has a flat tire.
Well, he's got the rear deck lid knocked over about a foot. He needs to get that thing to pit road right here. Oh, man. See how hard he hit with that right rear corner. He knocked the deck lid spoiler and everything over to the left.
Yeah, he's got no spoiler over there now to hold that.
So Ambrose wrestling a now doubly damaged 9-car around, Jamie.
Well, you see all that Barabon tape on the front end of that car. That was from the very first incident when we saw Matt Kenseth go around. Look at Ambrose wheeling that car, trying to stay out of the way. So they had damage early on, and the car seemed to be getting better. Mike Ford
It's one thing to stay out there and wait for a caution.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the caution.
Yeah, that's right. And he will be if he tries to stay out there too much longer and go at any speed. You can see the leader, Denny Hamlin, going by now.
There he goes. Oh, he's going to hang on to it.
Marcos was running in 24th position, a lap down when he did that second round of damage to the car. And yeah,
hey, Jimmy says, let me get by you before you wreck that thing.
He is just hanging on.
Yeah, or some more parts start coming flying off. I believe he's coming to pit road.
Safely to pit lane. Well, one of our storylines on the night was the fact that the championship picture at the end of the night would rest on the roof of a 2-car. And right now, Denny Hamlin and Jimmie Johnson are ahead of Brad Keselowski. And that's where you have to be to gain points. Again, we're not even halfway yet, but you got to be in front of him.
You need to be in front of him, and they would prefer that he'd be a little further than just in the rearview mirror, but you do have to be in front to gain points.
And another of the storylines coming into this night, the fact that the last couple of NASCAR Sprint Cup races here in Charlotte haven't seen many crashes, haven't seen many cautions. Tonight we did have 3 quick yellows in the first 41 laps, but then we have been caution-free since then. And at a track where these drivers are still turning laps in excess of 180 mile-an-hour average, there's no timeouts. There's no break behind the wheel.
Now, this is when those days in the gym for these drivers, the ones that really work hard on their physical conditioning, that not only helps them stay fit inside the race car, but it helps them mentally stay prepared in these long green flag runs.
You talked about earlier about the long green runs making it difficult to maintain your concentration and so on. So you're out there doing 190 or so as you approach turn 1. How difficult to be consistent with where you place the car on the track and where you lift off the throttle and how much brake you apply.
Well, you know, a lot of that comes with preparing yourself. But physically, if you're able to sit up straight in the car, your head's not leaning over to one side because you've run a lot of laps in a row, then you can do that on a consistent basis because you can see those marks. You can get back to the throttle and you can feel your race car. But if you haven't prepared yourself really getting ready for that, it makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah, we use the saying when that happens to a driver, he's falling out of the seat. Not literally, but basically kind of, like you said, not able to sit up straight and get that head to the left. If you can't do that all night, you're not really sitting up in the seat and getting it done.
I think that's what makes these drivers the athletes that they are and admired by athletes that we look at in other sports is the level of concentration that they have to have for such a long period of time, not making a mistake. Because it's not a 5-yard penalty or a strikeout. You hurt something and possibly yourself here.
So Denny Hamlin and Jimmie Johnson running first and second with Brad Keselowski, Kasey Kahne, and Greg Biffle third, fourth, and fifth. One of those rare cautions that we've had came on a jam up on a restart back at lap 15. Tony Stewart got some damage in that jam up. They made 4 pit stops for repairs, then took just 2 tires at lap 37 on another pit stop to try and regain some track position. And as we take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint Network. Tony Stewart's crew on their 4 tire stops has been helping him gain some of that ground back as well.
Yeah, 11-9, man, that's getting it done.
With unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app. Only from Sprint. Get the app and Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. The top 5. All drivers involved in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. And as far as the night started, the top 4 on the track now are the top 4 in points. Hamlin, Johnson, Keselowski, and Kahne.
ESPN. Superstars live big. Big stadiums, big expectations.
Matt Kenseth around in turn 4.
That's what being a superstar is all about. Absolutely killing it.
259 laps complete. Denny Hamlin has been the fastest car on the track all night, so no surprise that he is out front. And as we go up to speed with Nationwide Insurance, Vince Welch, Denny Hamlin has scored most points on mile-and-a-half tracks this year, but what's going on with that leader?
Well, right now, Nicole, he's just not real happy with his race car. He says he's still too tight in the center, and that's been the issue throughout the evening tonight. And he says the adjustments that they've made to try to help him in the center have actually freed up his exit to the point where it's almost a little bit too free. So he's asking crew chief Darian Grubb to be very careful with their next adjustment. Now, running second place is the 5-time champ, Jimmie Johnson. Jimmy says he's a little bit too free from center to the wall, so when he gets back on throttle, the car has a little bit of looseness to it. That's something they haven't had much of experience with tonight so far, so either the track is changing or those adjustments are starting to have an effect on Jimmy's handling. Jamie?
And behind him is Brad Keselowski. Before that last stop, he said he was a little bit loose. They definitely needed to fix that. So they made an air pressure and a wedge adjustment. He's saying on the radio the car is definitely better this time around. His spotter telling him the guys ahead of you are falling off. You're faster right now. Dave?
Kasey Kahne's car is still hitting the splitter, but listen to what he says.
So one is racing the next two behind you for the dog, so he's running his tail off. He says when he gets there, he'll help us out quick. I don't care. If I can't catch him, it's my own fault. I did not ride on the splitter. I don't know if he pulled it or not. I don't know how that brake.
The part about not being right on the splitter, they believe that when the crew member went to pull out the Packer in the left front shock, the handle broke, and it's still in there, Doc.
Behind him in fifth spot was our pole sitter, Greg Biffle. Biffle led the early lap, pitted on lap 37. He took 4 tires, others took 2, so he lost track position. They've been trying to make it up ever since. He said the car has been very, very loose. They've made 2 track bar adjustments, and Greg said, guys, I'm doing all I can do. Next time, we're going to have to swing big time to fix this race car. Dave.
Clint Bowyer's car still not handling well. Listen.
87. There you go, man. Every little bit helps. This front end will not turn. Will not keep turning.
Now, the encouraging voice on the other end is Brett Griffin. He was a new spotter midway through this year. They call him a catch. Clint said he's a great asset, and this is not Clint's favorite track. So all night long, with Clint's car handling ill, he's been trying to keep his driver calm. Doc?
Right behind him, Kevin Harvick in 9th position. He started back in 13th or 11th, rather moved into the top 5, and the car got very, very loose. Harvick said, you've made a couple of adjustments. The last one really helped a little bit. He said, guys, next time, let's take a spring rubber out of the right rear. He said, the car won't turn in the middle, but it's getting way too loose coming up off. I really need some help. Vince.
In the 56 of Martin Truex Jr., the big issue for this group recently has been the handling of the front end, and we're going to go to the booth. We got a caution on the track, Alan.
Yeah, NASCAR race control and one of their observers out in the corners have been going back and forth for the last moment or two about some possible debris on the racetrack, and the caution has come out for debris. And this as we come just shy of the 250-mile mark. In fact, as we hit the 250-mile mark, and that first long exhale for these drivers in a long time.
It's the first time they've really had a chance to relax. I mean, the green flag pit stops, you can't relax in that. I mean, getting to your pit stall, and then when you're there, if you're not there for very long, you hope you're not anyway. So it's a nice break for them.
It's like a beverage can.
I think one thing I'm seeing, I think this racetrack is getting a lot looser, a lot freer. Everybody we're hearing is talking about the cars being free. And even Clint Bowyer, he's been talking about how tight his car's been, and he was real animated about it. Those last probably 4 or 5 laps, he had the fastest car on the racetrack. So I think this really coming to his setup. Some of these other guys need to tighten up a little bit.
So 126th lap of consecutive green flag racing stretch ends with this 4th caution of the race. And the pit crews get a chance to go to work. Sam Hornish Jr. gets the free pass, and that'll give us 16 cars on the lead lap at the conclusion of the long green run. And by the way, the caution coming out just in the nick of time to save Keselowski, because he was almost to the point where he was going to have to pit under the green, and if then the caution had come out, that'll really shuffle things around.
Yeah, that's what he really needs, though, to get set up now with these guys on the same tires. He can really kind of gauge how good his car is. Up in the top 3, and now he can get 4 tires with them.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see anybody getting 2 tires. They have too many laps on them right now.
So the pit road open for the lead lap cars, and here they come. Vince?
Jimmy Johnson coming to the pits. They're going to make a 2-tire stop. Chad Knaus just asked Jimmy, top of your screen, if he'd get it a little tighter to the wall. They're also going to make a chassis adjustment. Middle of your screen is Denny Hamlin. Still too much tightness through the center for Hamlin, and they got to help the exit. 4-tire change for Hamlin. Jamie.
Brad Keselowski saying that last run he had more grip all the way around, but now he's loose off of 3, but the car is good. Down on the track bar, 4 tires and fuel, Doc.
Already put right sides on, left sides going on. Biff, we're going to put a round and a half a wedge in. Got to tighten him up, going. And he will try to beat, he will beat the 18 in this pit box off of pit road, guys.
Interesting strategy call there by Chad Knaus.
Yeah, he's one of the few cars that took 2 tires. Maybe the only one.
Only one I saw. And so Jimmy Johnson goes back to the lead, changing just the 2 tires on this set of pit stops. They say clean air is king. Chad Knaus just gave it to his driver, Jimmy Johnson, as we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America.
NASCAR Racing is brought to you by Beyond Digital, the official large format digital printing service of NASCAR in Canada, and proud sponsor of the #2 of Kerry Mix in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series.
Looking for a great deal? Go. It's go time at your Nissan retailer. The final clear out of remaining 2012s, and they're going fast. Go for a fun-to-drive Versa hatch with amazing deals and big discounts up to $14,000 on Titan, the biggest Nissan of them all. Plus, get no charge all-wheel drive on the new 2013 Rogue, a $2,000 value. For the best value on the road, there's no time like go time. On now at your Nissan retailer.
Why would any guy give up watching sports to upgrade his headlights? Because Silver Star Ultra from Sylvania are brighter and let you see farther and wider. But more importantly, because of who's behind the wheel.
The temper's overflowing, and there's a fight.
Are you kidding me? Am I dreaming right now?
It's going to be a drag race to the start-finish line.
We've won it, we've won it, we've won it. I'm Daytona 500 champion, I can't believe it.
Great seats can still be yours. Call 1-800-PIT-SHOP or visit Daytona500.com.
Sunday Night Football on TSN. Packers, Texans.
Denny Hamlin, our ESPN in-race reporter, was the leader. Now that 48 cars in front of him for the restart.
Denny, Dale Jarrett, we're hearing a lot of drivers talk about the racetrack getting looser. It looked like it worked pretty good for your car right there, though.
Yeah, we've been fighting in tight conditions, so it's helped us, but we're just trying to tune on it. Seems like all these cars are so equal. It's so tough to pass when you're not substantially faster than the guy in front of you. So we're just keep working on this FedEx Ground Toyota. See what we got for the rest of the race.
Hey, Danny, what do these cars drive like on these restarts with the cold tires and the air pressures down?
Yeah, surprisingly well. It's the tire combination Goodyear brought here has a ton of grip, and really the cooler the racetrack, the more grip that it's got. So you see some of the fastest laps all race will come 1 and 2 laps after a restart.
All right, thanks for talking.
Denny Hamlin will be alongside Jimmy Johnson for the restart when we go back racing. The strategy call by Chad Knaus, putting Jimmy Johnson in his Chevrolet out in the race lead. Enter now for a chance to win a Jimmy Johnson personalized 2013 Camaro ZL1 plus a Daytona 500 race weekend for 2. Visit wincamarozl1.com now to enter.
Thing to have, I think.
I didn't have a chance to read all that fine print on the bottom of the graphic, but I dare say no. You'd be with a contest-affiliated organization somehow.
How about me?
No. But I bet we can arrange to get you down to the Daytona race. So just across halfway in tonight's Bank of America 500, story of the night tonight has been the top 3 in the championship occupying the top 3 spots in the race for most of the night. Brad Keselowski started mid-pack. his team chose to stay on the racetrack under a caution flag at lap 35 when most of the other front runners pitted. That put him on his own cycle of pit stops, but he's done a lot of leading. In fact, Johnson and Keselowski have led the most laps tonight. Johnson 52, Keselowski 46. Then on a recent exchange of green flag pit stops, Denny Hamlin went to the front, led the last stretch of the race. And now it'll be Johnson again with the two-tire call on this caution flag. Back to the point. It's been truly a three-way fight between the top three in points throughout this race so far. Other major story of the night, Regan Smith subbing for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. Went to the garage less than 100 miles into the race. An engine failure on that 88 machine. And he will have to try again at Kansas next week as he continues to fill in for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Now, I'm anxious to see this 16 car now that they've gotten called back up here after all the green flag stuff. He was dominant there early on in this race, but having to make some adjustments to his car, see if it works.
Yeah, he put a round and a half of wedge in that last time. Pretty good adjustment. We'll see if that tightened him up enough.
Getting you a look at the restart order here. Kyle Busch tantalizingly close to the front.
He's showing back up there again. Casey Kane made a little adjustment on that stop, lost a couple of spots.
So, a long green flag run, a quick breather for a caution. Time to get back to business. Three wide for the race lead. Biffle jumps to the outside in the 16.
I didn't realize the weight's going to make that much of a difference on the start.
That lap to Biffle.
See Jimmy Johnson there battling Kyle Busch for that fourth spot. He's falling back. He was the only one to get two tires there. Johnson had a close call there with Mark Martin to his inside.
And Biffle had a close call with Denny Hamlin sliding in behind him. Here comes Brad Keselowski after second place in the deuce. So Biffle with the bold move on the restart. Goes to the number one spot. Keselowski now ahead of his two title rivals as Jimmy Johnson still trying to hang on to positions in that 48.
Yeah, this is going to be a turning point in the race for Jimmy Johnson, and it's not in the right direction.
That was a rather curious call. We all kind of looked at each other whenever they threw two tires on that thing with as many laps as they had on the left side.
That's back to 7th place for Jimmy.
Could probably tune in on Jimmy's radio, but it might be R-rated. Pretty sure that driver's not very happy inside there with that call.
That's a team that over the course of its history generally tended to make the four-tire call. They said just the two-tire thing didn't agree with their program, be it Jimmy's driving style or the way their cars behaved. But then as the cars and the tires evolved, found themselves basically forced to have to adapt to that strategy.
Yeah, they got beat a few times on it, and by taking 4 when they should have probably taken 2, this is one time that they probably should have taken 4, though.
They were the only ones that changed just the right side tires.
And his challenge now will just be to keep that leader in sight to where he doesn't give up too much time. Try to stabilize things here and stay within a couple of seconds, and everything will be fine then. So they'll have an opportunity later.
Sorry, Dale, that's Jimmy Johnson back in 7th, and up front, Keselowski starting to try to put a little pressure on Biffle for the race lead. Talk about a turn of events here. All of a sudden, Brad Keselowski went from up front earlier to back a little bit of a distant third, with his car's handling maybe not quite being what he wanted.
Well, he hasn't been on equal tires with these guys, though. He's been having to make that early stop, He gets a little advantage on that. Then when they come out on the fresh tires, they kind of blow right by him. This time he's able to kind of start out with them and see what he's got.
Yeah, the rest of them might not like what they're seeing now because he is on it. See, get the 16 a little bit loose, going to drive underneath him going down the back straightaway here.
Biffle had his hands full off turn 2.
And he can't hang to the outside. New leader, Brad Keselowski.
Biffle got his car tightened up for a few laps there, but maybe have that loose condition coming back to him. Hamlin able to take over that second spot now. How impressive is this 2 team, though? Every track we go to.
They're so impressive, too. You go talk to them. I talked to them before the weekend started. You can't believe how confident they were that they were going to be this good.
I can tell you from a driver's standpoint, that is so much fun. That Thursday and Friday getting in the race car can't come soon enough when you have race cars like this to drive.
And I know I've said it a couple of times already tonight, but I'm going to say it again. That 18 car continues to intrigue me. Kyle Busch now kind of in the frame as we show the leaders. There he is in 4th place.
We didn't expect him to just go away, did you?
No,
this
sir.
guy can go now.
Guy that's led the most laps in this race the last 2 years and didn't win it. Maybe a little different tack tonight. He won't have the car that leads all the laps, but maybe he'll have one that's there at the end. Yeah. And Mark Martin right there as well in the 55 car. Mark running 5th. So a 3-wide move on the restart by Greg Biffle got him to the race lead as Jimmy Johnson struggled with the handling of his car, but then Biffle lost the lead, struggling a little bit with the handling of that 16 machine as Brad Keselowski went by him. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America. Nashville is Wednesday's #1 new drama, career-defining performances. For stars Connie Britton and Hayden Panettiere, Nashville is at the top of everyone's must-watch list. USA Today calls it the #1 new fall show. Nashville, all new Wednesday at 10, 9 Central on ABC. USA Today had a very nice write-up on the show the other day. Race for the lead from the second-place driver looking forward. Denny Hamlin chasing Brad Keselowski for the top spot here at Charlotte in the Bank of America 500.
Just watch these 2 cars. They're running almost identical lap times. I mean, within really a couple thousandths of a second.
Yes, like every lap, they swap it back and forth as to who was the quickest. But as you said, by just thousandths of a second. And here comes Kyle Busch
to 3rd place. Haven't seen him at the very front yet, Dave, but he's been in the top, 7 or 8 all night.
And he's just got a small handling problem right now, Ellen. Right there, when the car lands in its most aggressive position, it won't turn. Other than that, it's not bad. And recall how the day started for Kyle Busch. It started with a problem. They found a track bar mount looking underneath the car in pre-race inspection of their own that was cracked. I asked the engineers, do you think it would have presented a problem? They said there's no way of knowing. The part was compromised. We had to replace it. Fortunately, it didn't set into the rear at the start.
Well, for a team that's had its share of bad breaks during the course of this season, maybe some great fortune there to find that problem before the race. And Kyle Busch now running 3rd. Kyle running 2.7 seconds behind the race leader, Brad Keselowski. Jamie?
Well, and when that caution came out last time around, Brad came on the radio and was so detailed about how his car was handling all over the racetrack. Paul Wolf, his crew chief, very humble, quiet, said 10-4. He adjusted on that car, went down on the track bar, and I'll tell you, these two have a dynamic and chemistry you don't often see on pit road.
All right, Jamie.
They really do have it going together. I mean, they are so in tune with each other. And Paul's so cool. I mean, he takes it all in and makes the right adjustment at the right time.
Rally of the night so far. 14 car, Tony Stewart.
Yeah, he's not finished yet either. He's really making his way up through here pretty good. That 6 car just made a pit stop, I think. And he got in the middle of this.
Yeah, Tony got pretty loose there, being in the middle of those. Did a nice job of hanging on, not getting up into Kevin Harvick, but he was not happy with his car after yesterday's practice. They've made some good adjustments, and with a banged up front end, they did a nice job of getting him up here inside the top 10 now.
This whole knot of cars all racing for position. Tony Stewart now taking over 10th. Harvick 29's 11th. Truex 56 is 12th. Almirola 43 13th. 20 Logano is 14th. The trick is they're all 10 seconds or so behind these two.
Yeah, those two are setting a blistering pace, still about just 100th of a second apart in lap times.
And a pace that hasn't slowed down at all as we get deeper into the race. And one thing that I talked with Paul Wolfe and a couple other crew chiefs about this morning, if we get the late caution as the temperature continues to cool later in the race, sometimes in this race, and we saw this last year, almost everybody in the field will set their fastest lap of the race like 300 laps into a 334 lap race.
Yeah, what happens is I mean, we're getting really cool temperatures here, and it makes that dense air makes a lot of downforce. Now, it causes some problems with adjusting the car to get the balance right. We've seen that tonight, but boy, it makes for a lot of speed, and especially late in the race.
Significant race here. Matt Kenseth 17, Kurt Busch 78, fighting to be the first car one lap down. Worked with us for the start of the race. Matt Kenseth had a flat tire caused spin back at lap number 11. And has been fighting to get back on the lead lap since.
Yeah, it looked like 2 times he was going to make that happen, that he was going to be able to get that lap back, but circumstances prevented that, so he's in that position now. We'll see if he's fortunate enough to get that lap back. And you know, the thing I wonder about, you're talking about these fast speeds and how they come later. Engine fatigue, as many RPMs as they're turning here with these fast speeds tonight. Will we see something happen around that 300 lap mark?
Jimmy Johnson going to clear Clint Bowyer for 6th position. Remember, Johnson leading off the pit lane after the caution pit stops at lap 168, 30 laps ago. But his team took just right side tires. Greg Biffle put him in the middle of a 3 wide. He fell back into traffic, and he's still fighting this race car some. Watch the hands.
Yeah, man, it makes it even worse. You get a car on the outside there on that right rear corner. That's what these guys rely on, is that side force and down force on that right rear. And when a car gets there and takes that away, you have your hands full.
So Jimmy Johnson back in 6th position, while Brad Keselowski continues to lead this race. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America.
Brad Keselowski still out front at Charlotte Motor Speedway as we complete more than 200 laps here. No, one of the biggest stories of the weekend, though, as we get you caught up on what's happened so far with our race recap, is something that happened last weekend in Talladega. The fallout from this last lap accident. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not racing tonight because of the concussion he suffered, his 2nd concussion in 6 weeks. He's missing tonight's race, and he will miss the race next weekend in Kansas. The leader and our points leader, Brad Keselowski, has had a few close calls tonight.
Oh, he really has. He got hit in the back from Tony Stewart right there, kind of bent his rear bumper, but he got away with that. Everything turned out good, but then he tried to get down pit road, almost got rear-ended by the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson, but he did a good job anyway.
Yeah, he really had. And Jimmy Johnson's been so strong early, led 53 laps thus far. Race car looks really, really fast. He's been adjusting on it. Not quite where Jimmy wants the car, but I got a feeling as we get towards the end of the race, this will be the guy to beat.
Took those 2 tires on the last pit stop, a strategy call, Ray, that didn't really pay off for him. He went from the lead a little bit back near the field. He's currently in 6th.
Yeah, had a little bit too many laps on the left side. It's a good call for Chad Knaus to find out where he needed to be, maybe for later on. Thinking he's probably not going to try that again. Hopefully he can hold his own right now and not lose too many more positions.
Now, obviously, the goal of the night is to finish in front of the points leader. And Rusty, you think this is the night for that 48 team if they want to win another championship?
Yeah, I really do, Nicole. I think this is a big story. The 48 has been struggling off and on throughout this year, and he's been dying to get to these mile-and-a-half racetracks. Well, he's at a mile and a half right now, And in my opinion, the night is really crucial. If he just has a so-so night, I'll tell you what, I think the 2-car Brad Keselowski will drive off with this championship. If Jimmie Johnson runs strong tonight, it's going to be a great indicator that, hey, he's back, he's ready, and he can get it done. We all talked about how he's been Mr. Charlotte Motor Speedway, but we all talked earlier about that was on the old racetrack, not so much this new track. He's only won one time here since 2009. If he can run good tonight and maybe win, this cat is back, and he is the serious contender to run down that 2-car, Brad Keselowski. But tonight is the night that I'm really looking at to see if Jimmie Johnson's back in shape.
Well, the other guy I've been really watching has been Denny Hamlin. Yeah, Jimmie Johnson, I agree with you 100%, Rusty. But Denny Hamlin has consistently been the fastest car on the racetrack the last 50 laps or so. So can he get this thing to the house? Can he and Darian Grubb get this thing to the end of this race where they can go head-to-head with Brad Keselowski and Jimmie Johnson, possibly for a win?
You know, I know it's about the chase, guys, and I know that we've got to talk about the 48 and the 2 and the 11, but Kyle Busch has been coming on those guys all night.
Yeah.
As the night has gone on, that 18 car's gotten faster and faster. He may be a guy that's going to take a win away from our chasers tonight.
And don't forget about Greg Biffle, Alan. He's back there in 4th, and right now the 3rd fastest car on the track.
Yeah, Nicole, and you see there Kyle Busch and Greg Biffle have a chunk of ground to make up on these top 2. And I think really as we're across 300 miles now, that's one of the main stories of the night is the pace the race leaders have set. Whether it's been Keselowski or Johnson or Hamlin out in front, they have always managed those top 2 or so to separate themselves from the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's really been a little surprising. I know that air really means a lot, but they put themselves in some dirty air because they're running up on a lot of lap traffic, but they have separated themselves quite a bit every single time.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think his track's just getting looser and looser, and it seems like Biffle's team just can't keep up with that. They just keep getting looser.
Greg Biffle, the subject of our AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge, because out of the top 4 qualifiers, he is running closest to the front. Remember to text FAST to 34763 and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge, or visit attfastestdriver.com. You can have a chance to win 4 Gs just by playing. Biffle in 4th, Kyle Busch 18 in front of him in 3rd. They are 5.4 seconds behind the top 2. The top 2 are Brad Keselowski in the deuce, Denny Hamlin in the 11. Jimmie Johnson, the other player in the championship, has slipped back in this run. He's in 6th position. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America.
Hey folks, I'm Bill Carruben, the Sports Center Newsroom. Sports Center coming your way at 11:30 Eastern. Here's what we are working on. A big baseball game going on. ALCS Game 1. Yankees, Tigers, bottom second. New York loads the bases for the 2nd straight inning. Johnny Peralta with the bare hand play. Robinson Cano called out at first, even though it looked like Cano beat the throw. Tough call for them there. Top 6 after a triple by Austin Jackson. Prince Fielder cashing him in with the base hit. It is 2-0 for the Tigers in the 6th inning. To the CFL, Stamps Bombers. Winnipeg down by 8 with a minute left. But Alex Brink loses the ball, one of 8 bomber turnovers. Calgary clinching a playoff spot with the win. And the other CFL game, the Eskimos beat the Riders 37-20. Edmonton still in possession of the crossover spot. The Argos and Owls wrap up Week 16 on CFL on TSN tomorrow.
NASCAR Racing is brought to you by Premier Sports Travel, your #1 source for travel to all the best NASCAR races this season. Tickets, hotels, transportation, pit passes, and more. Visit sportstravel.com.
Why would any guy give up watching sports to upgrade his headlights? Because Silver Star Ultra from Sylvania are brighter and let you see farther and wider. But more importantly, because of who's behind the wheel.
Closing in on a set of green flag pit stops at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Bank of America 500. Martin Truex Jr., the first to make a move to the pit lane from the lead lap. Expect most of the leaders to be in around another 5 laps. That was Bobby Labonte hanging the left to pit lane you saw out of Denny Hamlin's windshield. flag run has been the man who was the story for an opposite reason at the beginning of the green flag run. Jimmie Johnson fell back from the lead to 7th place. Now as we get to the end of this fuel run, he's picking up spots.
I think it shows you just how good his car is, because they did the two-tire thing, which is obviously a disadvantage, especially in that first 3 quarters of this run. But as these tires kind of age, that advantage kind of goes away, and you can see how good his car is. He's about the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack right now, Doc.
Indeed, as we watch Kevin Harvick now. Kevin Harvick said the car was plowing in the corner, but of course the track now freeing up with the track coming to him. Tires are on for Harvick. He's down and away. Jamie.
And Mark Martin had some debris on the grill, but I believe it just came off. He said it is cooling down. It's going to be a 4-tire stop and fuel for the 55. And the 20 at Joey Logano, been loose all night, but that's what they expected. They built in adjustability so they could tighten this car up. That's exactly what Jason Ratcliffe has done. They've been adjusting on track bar and wedge and the tires, getting the car better. Dave?
Kyle Busch gives up 3rd position. He liked the adjustments in the rear of the car. He said, if you're going to stay there, work on that a little bit. That'll help my car continue to turn throughout the race. Vince?
The 48 of Jimmie Johnson, as we noted, took just right sides last time. This time it's a 4-tire change and a chassis adjustment, still tight across the center.
Left side tires going on the 16 of Biffle. Air pressure hasn't helped. Wedge doesn't help. They put a rubber in the left rear to try to tighten up the pole center.
And Tony Stewart, he has made more than twice the number of pit stops than everybody else tonight because of the damage, but he came on the radio about 10 laps ago and said, this is the best my car has been. It's good on entry, good on exits. They've been making the right adjustments in the right direction at tear off 4 tires and fuel. Doc?
Jeff Gordon said, I just can't drive this thing, guys. It's so loose off the corner. This time 4 tires, 1 round of the track bar, 3 rounds in the left rear. Left side tires going on. The 5-time Charlotte winner there. The track bar down and away. Vince.
The 99 of Carl Edwards has been having a good run tonight, but he says it's just still too free in and off. They've also been concerned about the temperature of the 99. Now the 11 of Denny Hamlin. He has been rock solid all night long, but if there's been one issue for Hamlin, it's just tight across the center. Hamlin says it's a little tight on exit as well. They're going to make a chassis adjustment for Denny. It's going to be a 4-tire change for the 11 of Denny Hamlin. They have been fast on the track and flawless in the pit so far tonight. Another solid stop.
And the leader, Brad Keselowski, hits the pit lane, the last to come in and complete the cycle of stops among the lead laps. There are several speeding penalties on this round of green flag stops. I'll recap them in a moment. They include Jeff Gordon serving his pass-through penalty here as Brad Keselowski pits.
And of course, when they pit under green like this, there's not a lot of time to talk and describe how his car is handling. It's going to be 4 tires and fuel. They're happy with how things are going now. Brad hasn't said much that whole stint there.
As Clint Bowyer gives up the lead and comes to pit road, we see where Brad Keselowski comes out in relation to Jimmie Johnson and Denny Hamlin. Denny is behind him as he comes up off the banking. And there's Denny. So that 2 team is going to hold serve. There's Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, and Jimmie Johnson. Dave?
Brian Patty told me this morning that the 15 car would get the best mileage of all the Toyotas. He stayed out, extended his fuel window, and led a lap. That's an important championship point. They made very few changes. Air pressure change, actually. His car was still tight.
All right, so the cycle of stops complete. And Keselowski and Hamlin basically hold station on that exchange of pit stops. Speeding penalties, Paul Menard, Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, and we have debris on the front straightaway, and the caution is coming out. Fifth yellow of the race just after a set of green flag pit stops were completed.
If I'm looking at things right, maybe Matt Kenseth finally gets that lap back.
mentioned Jeff Gordon with the speeding penalty.
It's one of those nights.
Well,
yeah, he couldn't afford one of those nights again, though. Race car not driving to his liking, and then pit road speeding penalty, trying to climb back into this chase. It's going to hamper that opportunity. Ray might have to stick a fork in him finally down there.
He might. He's been holding off on him.
Jeff Gordon was in 14th position at the time of the penalty. He's 18th here under the caution flag. It is indeed Matt Kenseth who gets the free pass at this yellow. Finally, after lap 11 trouble, Kenseth is going to come back around into the hunt.
Well, he's deserving. He's driven this thing hard all night long. That's going to put 17 cars back on the lead lap.
Look at this. Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson going to pit just after stopping under green.
I think this might be a fuel window thing.
Fuel only, get tight to the wall.
How about it, Vince?
That's exactly right. Fuel only for both the 48 and the 11 to get within their window. In fact, the 11 of Darian Grubb and Denny Hamlin had the conversation, can you save me enough fuel? And they decided, no, they're going to come in and get it. Remember, fuel has bitten them twice already in the chase. Doc.
29 car Kevin Harvick coming in on the pit road. They will change right side tires and make an air pressure adjustment. Kevin has been battling a car. It's been very, very tight in the middle of the corner. He said it was plowing last time. Had a bit of a vibration. They're going to come back in and put 4 tires back on just to make sure while they have a chance. Why not come in and check it? He's down and away as he goes by Sam Hornish.
Hamlin, Johnson, Harvick, Almirola, Hornish, and Kane, the lead lap cars that pit under this caution. And we're back for the restart after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Do your job at the track and at the house too. But there's also unique pressures that come with a home game. You need to perform best in front of those who love you most. Welcome home to Charlotte. Now, get to work.
Working our 5th caution of the night here at Charlotte Motor Speedway with Brad Keselowski out front, Kyle Busch in 2nd, but some interesting strategy under this caution with Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson both pitting again for fuel only, Ray.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to make up that few laps. Even though it looks like they can't make it, they want to gamble, get themselves in a position. And I think another reason is we've seen over and over again that number 2 car get good fuel mileage, so it gives the 11 and the 48 a little bit closer shot. If the 2 is going to stretch it, they might be able to do that as well.
I really like this decision they made, Ray. There's 108 laps to go. I mean, on restarts, new tires have really done a lot. These guys really gain a lot of positions right off the bat before these tires start to settle in. So to be sitting there and have more gas and better tires than anybody, to me, feels pretty good right now.
Yeah, and track position's everything, as you guys talk. And long green flag runs, we're not seeing the cautions that maybe we thought would be precipitated at this point. So we're getting down to 108 laps to go. We may have another long green flag run. The guys just put themselves in a great position just in case.
So Hamlin will start 10th and Johnson 11th, Alan.
And interesting on this restart, Nicole, the leader, Brad Keselowski, has chosen the inside lane. First time we've seen any leader choose that inside lane for a restart all night. Kyle Busch to his outside.
Maybe now we know why he chose that. Worked pretty good for him, didn't it?
Yeah, it used to be you wouldn't consider doing anything else except for on the bottom of this racetrack. That's where Brad's been running most of the nights. Down on the inside, he felt like he knew his car there and could get up to speed. Saw Denny Hamlin make a big pass there to gain a couple of spots way up on top of the racetrack on that first lap.
So as it settles out, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, the top 5. Denny Hamlin, Jimmy Johnson trying to pick their way back from those 10th and 11th restarting positions after the pit stop under the yellow. Hamlin just passed Truex for 8th.
Well, we saw a lot of those cars make that stop for fuel only, but I think that you saw this 2-car stay out. I think he can make it on one more stop, where these other guys had to pit to make sure they could. And that's just one of the advantages we've seen with this 2-car all year is their fuel mileage. And this right here is definitely an advantage by not having to make this pit stop, you can see he's got track position.
Just another way that this team is putting pressure on those challengers for this championship to them, knowing they have that kind of ability to stretch it out. The other two, the 11 and the 48, had to make sure they had enough fuel.
Boy, Joey Logano had his hands full last lap at this section of the racetrack in that 20 car. Here he races Kevin Harvick for 12th place. Had a car that was inside a lap ago, and that thing bobbled up the racetrack on him and looked like he grabbed a handful of steering wheel.
Harvick, who was just on pit road that last time, making some more adjustments to this race car. Not to his liking so far. Like it may be a little better this time around.
All these cars on the lead lap, 22 Hornish as well. Of the racetrack there. People talk about the track changing through the night. Well, as these tires grind along on the pavement, they lay down rubber, and those are the conditions that make the grip level of the car to the pavement different as the race goes on, and that these crew chiefs always talk about having to adjust to.
Yeah, there's so many things that happen as the race goes on, especially these night races when it gets cooler and cooler, and they get that rubber build up more and more, and they start working those well. Look at Biff will chase his car.
Going to cost them a spot, perhaps, to Carl Edwards in the 99, charging forward.
Yeah, you just can't keep Carl Edwards down too long. I mean, he's been kind of in a big slump, but he's bound to come out of it. Tonight looks like the night.
Hamlin and Johnson with Kasey Kahne back at 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, all three of these drivers pitted that last time. Kasey Kahne, car hadn't been quite as good since they took that Packer out of the left front there, Dave.
And DJ, under that last green flag stop, that's why they put half of it back in, or actually more, a 32nd out the first time, a 16th back in. So he wasn't happy with it. They also came down this last time and put 4 tires on it and loosened the car up just a bit. So major adjustments on the 5. He restarted outside the top 10, working his way back.
So, man, a lot of folks thought would be one of the favorites to win this race. Kasey Kahne hasn't been close to the front an awful lot tonight. As we cross now the 350-mile mark of this race, and Kahne back in 10th position. Rally of the night, Tony Stewart in the 14. Damaged in a restart shuffle back just 50 miles into this race. Was back in 36th place after 4 pit stops to repair that 14 car. Tony's up in 7th. Denny Hamlin working on him there, trying to claw his way back to the front. So Brad Keselowski has led the most laps in this race tonight. Managed to get away from Kyle Busch on that last restart.
Much faster than that, Dave. He's quicker than you. You took off running 20s. The fastest we've been all night is 50s. Yeah, I ain't got that.
Oh, we were talking about that earlier. How that select 2 or 3 cars have been able to distance themselves from the rest of the group. Right now, 2 of those 3 cars have to recover from that extra pit stop. Brad Keselowski carrying an extra passenger on the front of the race leader's car. A little trash on the grill of the Blue Deuce. We keep an eye on that as we are inside of 100 laps to go in the Bank of America 500. Saturday night race gives us Sunday off and a chance to tune in to NFL Countdown. Get your NFL Sunday started off right. 10 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2. Host Chris Berman and the gang providing all the latest news and updates from stadiums around the league right up until kickoff. Then at 11 on ESPN2, Robert Flores, Matthew Berry, and Tim Hasselbeck give you the information you need to get your lineup set and give you an edge in your leagues with Fantasy Football Now. That's all Sunday on ESPN and ESPN2. Panthers have a bye week, right, this week?
Panthers are off this week, yeah.
Traditionally, it seems like they're, I don't know if it's done this way or not, but it seems like race weekend in Charlotte, the Panthers have a bye week a lot of times. Or they play a road game.
They have the Cowboys coming in town next weekend.
Yeah. With 16 cars on the lead lap, the fight to be the first car a lap down in case the caution comes out rests with these two. Jeff Gordon 24, Ryan Newman 39.
Battle of the Turtles. Looks like Jeff Gordon's car is going to get it right now.
Those aren't just turtles.
No, those are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Thank you.
Cowabunga.
Following that 2 car and just watching the very obvious piece of debris on the nose of that car. Well, Jamie, how much concern in the pit of the race leader?
Well, I just climbed up on the pit box, Alan, and I talked to his crew chief, Paul Wolf, and I said, what are you more concerned about right now, that piece of debris or saving fuel? He said, we're not worried about the grill and the debris right now. He said saving fuel is key, and I told my driver to back it down a little bit. So Brad said he's going to start giving up some time here shortly.
All right, Jamie, thanks. Let's talk about the strategy situation. We went back racing with 107 laps to go. It's been around 50 laps all night that everybody's come in under green flag. If we don't see the caution from now to the finish, we're in another economy run.
Yeah, I watched the one run that Brad Keselowski ran. He ran about 59 laps. He had about 13 caution laps in that run. So kind of correct all that back. That was about 53, 54 laps. He could probably make it under green. That he's demonstrated. Now he may be able to go further than that. They want a little insurance though, so they'll try to back it down just a little bit.
Wasn't a whole lot there on the hill last run, so as fast as the pace is, Paul, if I help you, I'm gonna really give up a lot of time. Of course, manage your gas.
Yeah, he makes a good point right there. As fast as this race pace is, if he tries to save fuel, it really costs you time.
So the balance of the mileage versus the speed on a fast track night in Charlotte in the Bank of America 500. Keselowski 0.8 of a second over Kyle Busch. Crisp October Saturday night from our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Well, for a young man trying to win his first Sprint Cup Series championship, to be going out front and leading the most laps, more than anyone, at the sports hometown track, with all the focus that comes with these races in Charlotte, we give our Goodyear Superior Performer today to Brad Keselowski.
Can't argue with that pick. These other drivers were looking to try to pick up a little on him. He's gone out here and led more than twice as much as anybody else to this point. He's within about 9 laps of kind of securing that bonus point for leading the most laps.
Yep. Jimmy Johnson's led 53 tonight, second most. Keselowski's been out in front for 119. And remember, on the night he started back in 20th position, they chose not to pit under an early caution at lap 13 when all of the other front runners did. Got him some track position to the lead. And then as things cycled out, the cautions fell their way and they were able to get back on an even pit stop schedule with everyone else and lead the most laps. Looking ahead from Kevin Harvick to Aric Almirola, racing for 13th and 14th places.
Yeah, Almirola having another very solid night. He sat on the pole back here for the 600, had a solid top 15 finish that night. Doing it again here.
It's his second ever Sprint Cup Series start here at Charlotte. Kevin Harvick just not, well, I mean, earlier in the race, Doc, we saw Kevin Harvick up in the top 5, but that picture has changed a lot since then.
Boy, it sure has, Alan. And Kevin basically just summed it up a moment ago on the radio very dejectedly. He said, guys, the car is just junk, to tell you the truth. Just junk. We have no grip. No grip at all.
Really frustrating when you have a good car and part of the race, and then it kind of just falls apart on you. Not much you can do to adjust it. Seems like everything they do is not helping this car and maybe making it worse.
You know, everybody talks about when you begin this 10-race stretch to decide the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship that the Talladega race is the wild card race, the one that could really, in a major way, change the championship picture. Well, we're on the other side of that race now, as you see Denny Hamlin pick up 6th position on Mark Martin. We're on the other side of that race now, and Brad Keselowski is the leader, and he says this next run of races are right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, right now.
I'm really looking forward to this stretch, and you know, Charlotte's a good week for us to prove ourselves again. I felt very fortunate to get through Talladega with you know, the outing that we had, and to have a points lead. So we need to take advantage of it and capitalize off it, and I think we're prepared to do so.
Well, everything's been right in his wheelhouse, and certainly Kansas, he ran very well there. Martinsville is a little bit of a rough and rugged race, and then it's on to the big tracks again to finish it out. As we see Martin Truex Jr., last time the first one to make a move to pit road onto the green, and he's in again with 75 laps to go, Vince.
Martin Truex has really been happy with his race car on the entry and exit, but tight in the middle, and that's really what they've needed to fix. They've been trying to find the sweet spot on this one, and they're getting closer and closer. Crew Chief Chad Johnson, they're making a chassis adjustment. It's a 4-tire change. Typically not one of Martin's better tracks, but they came with a completely different setup, and they've been much better this weekend. Good stop, 13.1.
That's kind of early, I think. But we'll follow up on that. And we continue to keep an eye on that debris on the front of the grill of Brad Keselowski's car as we come back to Charlotte after this from our ABC stations. 69 laps to go in the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte. Brad Keselowski is the race leader. Beginning to see some more pit stops. Tony Stewart gives up his spot on the track for a stop, Jamie.
Been doing a great job keeping it in the top 10. Last stop they made a wedge adjustment, and the adjustments they're making are going in the right direction. Steve Addington brought a new setup here, and it wasn't great yesterday, but it's certainly getting better. It'll be a 4-tire stop. They'll put 2 cans of Sunoco fuel in for Tony Stewart, who seems to be pretty happy on the radio.
Yeah, that cost him some time.
Yeah, they've had some good stops. That wasn't one of them.
They had one under 12 seconds earlier in the night.
Yeah. And under green, too, for that. So, tough luck there for Smoke. Mark Martin has been in. Sam Hornish, Martin Truex Jr. among lead lap cars. Now Greg Biffle is going to hit the pit lane.
See that debris that was on the front of that tube may have come off right there. A lot of it did anyway.
Here's the Biff, Doc.
And man, they've worked so hard to get this car tightened up, Alan. They've done everything. They've rubbers in, air pressure wedge, and now Greg said, okay, guys, let's just hammer it hard. 3 rounds of wedge. Greg said 3 rounds, just jack it in there. 1 round. Left side tire's going on. Let's check out on the 18 car, Dave.
He gets up 3rd position, Doc, after he got passed by Carl Edwards. A little snug entering the corner for Kyle. He was supposed to be pushing that 2-car, Brad Keselowski, for fuel. They said, we are not on a one-stop strategy. They'll have to pit again. Kasey Kahne on your right. His car is a little free in the rear, a little tight in the front. They'll make a wedge adjustment for him, and they should not be able to go to the end from here as well. Jamie?
And Joey Logano in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there he is. The 20 says the car is just getting looser as the night goes on, but they anticipated this, so it hasn't been terrible, just a little loose off is what he's saying now. They made a track bar adjustment there in 4 tires.
Keselowski, Edwards, Boyer, Hamlin, Johnson. Now the top 5. Jeff Gordon is in. Remember, he got a speeding penalty a little while ago that he's trying to dig out from. Doc?
Exactly, and finally Alan Gus and all these guys were paying off. Jeff said, guys, if the car is the best it's been all night long, we're going to put 4 tires on it. Feels in a little bit of tightness in turns 1 and 2. Otherwise, guys, this is the best race car we've had all night. So now, left side tires going on. We will have to make 1 more stop. Can't make it from here on field, down and away.
So the pit road clear for the moment And we'll see how long it stays that way with some of these front runners and how close they're able to get to that window to make it to the finish.
Now we saw the guys that made the stop there for fuel under the caution needed to go to 110 total laps in the end. So that means that to split it up to be 55 laps. So if they can make it to 55 to go, they can probably make it.
What a run for Carl Edwards.
Man, nice to see, too. Carl Edwards, we haven't been able to talk much about him in these other races, but a very solid effort tonight as he brings this 99 machine to pit road.
Nice to be with 63 laps to go for the 99 car, Vince.
Boy, and they certainly do need a good run, but they felt like they've been creeping up on it. They've been getting better and better. They're starting to show their wares. They were 6th a few weeks ago, had a solid run and finished last week at Talladega. Had contact, but they felt early in the weekend they were going to be fine. 4-tire change here for Carl Edwards in 13.4. Doc?
Last time in, Kevin Harvick asked for spring rubbers in both rears, left rear and right rear, and said the car was junk. The car just didn't have any front grip. This time they're going to make another adjustment, air pressure. Right side tires going on, got to get it full of fuel. Left side, good pit stop so far. 13.2 seconds, great stop for Kevin Harvick's bunch. Jamie.
And Ryan Newman makes his way down pit road into his pit box. They had an engine change yesterday, started in the back of the field despite their great qualifying effort this weekend. Took them a while to get through technical inspection this morning as well. But the night has been pretty good. They've been adjusting on it every single stop. You saw the wrench in the back window to start on the right side. 4 tires of fuel, Dave.
Matt Kenseth has only picked up 2 spots since he received the lucky dog and took fuel 1 lap later than all of the lead lap cars. But the spring rubber they pushed into the right rear spring made the car too loose. They have pulled that back out to try to help Matt, and now they're slow. They're wanting to make sure they get it packed full of fuel. It's a possibility they'll try to stretch it.
Brad Keselowski may be out of fuel. The race leader might have pushed it a little too far.
Fitting this time, no, fitting this time. No speed here. Take care of your tires. Take care of your engine here.
Losing time. With the engine shut off, no tachometer to measure his pit road speed. That the admonishment from Joey Meyer, the spotter. And coasting to his pit stall with 58 laps to go. The man who's led more laps than anyone else tonight, Jamie.
And the faces on these crew guys when they heard him say, and you hear it there, out, 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 as he rolls into his pit box. Talk about cutting it too close. 4 tires here. They will fill it up. Of course they'll be able to make it to the end, but we'll have to see if this is going to cost him any track position as he was coasting his way halfway around that last lap before he did it. And you're going to see the guys are going to have to push him here, make sure they're going to fill it all the way up. They're continuing to put gas in it. Remember, last night they didn't get any gas in on the last stop, and it cost them the race.
There's a turn of events.
Wow, that's big for this championship.
So we'll wait till everything cycles out to see just how bad the damage is to Keselowski. Clint Bowyer took over the race lead when the 2 slowed, and now here's Clint in for his stop, Dave.
They have gone 56 laps on fuel, Alan. I believe that's about the distance remaining in the race at this point. He's been told we can make it from here. We're in good shape, and he's been racing at full song. So this is interesting for Clint. He'll be a car that can drive hard and have enough fuel.
Denny Hamlin. Jimmy Johnson as Jimmy slows. Is he out of fuel, Vince?
Yes, he's shaking it. Boy, they've been cutting it close. 54 laps on this stint. He said he's been running at 80% throttle, trying to save what he can. They needed him to save 1 lap on this stint, and they need him to save 2 more laps on the final stint. He says he needs a little help on landing, so they're going to make a chassis adjustment, an air pressure adjustment to go along with those 4 tires for Jimmy Johnson.
And the race leader, Denny Hamlin, will come to the pit lane with 54 laps to go.
Cycle the ignition here as we're filling it.
And here he is, Vince.
Crew Chief Darian Grubb has been pleading with Denny Hamlin to save him say 2 more laps on this next stint as well. They had hoped to go to lap 280. Didn't quite get there, but very close. A good stop, 13.6.
So this is going to jumble up the running order. Both the different pit stop schedules that we've seen and the fact that the dominant car ran out of gas.
Yeah, the one thing that I see there is the 11 car is the only one I think that can stretch it now and make it to the end. The others haven't really demonstrated that they can do it.
I think Clint Boyer might be in that position that he can get himself to the end. He's going to be really close.
Greg Biffle, the 16, and they're all the way back to Brad Keselowski in the 2, nearly 43 seconds behind.
Hey, Chuck, Paul, can we make it now? Oh, we're going to need a little help here. A little help. How much more help than what I've already gave you? If you get these numbers, I'll let you know.
Wow. Got some late race drama unfolding here at Charlotte as we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America. Greg Biffle, the race leader of the Bank of America 500, the 108th NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race here at this track. As we look back at the last few years with the Milo's race tracker, 6 different drivers winning this race in the last 6 years. Always a big deal to get a win here in Charlotte. So Greg Biffle out in front, 0.6 of a second to Kyle Busch. There's the first to second gap. There are 16 cars on the lead lap and 2 or 3 different fuel stop schedules if we go caution-free to the finish of this race.
We can't make it, right? No, we cannot make it. We still can't make it if we stop right now.
Now, to simplify it, I think there's just like Dale said, maybe the 15 car and the 11 car that have demonstrated that they can make it to the end. And I think they still have to save some fuel.
Yeah, that's the only 2 drivers hoping for no caution. The rest of them are looking for something to give them a little bit of help here.
Yes, they are. So, Biffle, Kyle Busch, Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Clint Boyer, looking at lead lap cars cycling through. Casey Kane, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Jimmy Johnson 10th, Almirola there, and Brad Keselowski, who now, after all of this settles down, is in 12th position, 13 seconds behind the race leader.
You're thinking the 11 and 48 can make it, Paul, right? Copy on 11:48.
So Brad just trying to make sure he understands the situation, both his own fuel to the finish and who he's racing.
You can see he's messing with some switches on the dash right there. A lot of these drivers and teams are using those switches to shut off airflow and to open up airflow in the side windows and in the brake duct openings in the front of the nose. It kind of changes the way that air flows and makes more downforce and less drag.
It's a lot to be doing at 190 miles an hour.
Yeah, he's not the only one. I think you see Jimmy Johnson doing the same thing. Some of the other cars we've seen from their in-car shop.
So it's not just the actual fuel injection where they're saving it, but they're doing it with the drag on the race car too. Just making it as efficient as they can possibly make it.
Using every tool they have.
Shut the switch off, wave out the hand, thanks for cutting me a break. Back to the switch, back to the steering wheel, hit my mark, put the car in the right place on the racetrack.
Oh yeah, and save a little fuel while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's why I retired. I needed both hands on the wheel when I was driving, so these guys are way more talented.
And catch those guys ahead of you too. Jimmy Johnson in 9th.
He's got both hands on the wheel now. We'll see what he does when he hits the straightaway.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, he needs both hands right now.
He's going to need to save some fuel, though, in some shape or form here.
That's a picture on this 48 car from here to the finish, Vince.
Yes, he is going to have to save a little bit of fuel, but Chad Knaus just told Jimmy you saved us right at 2 laps the last run. Great job. Need a little bit less than that this time. He told him before needed 1 lap from him on this particular run. They believe that they're going to be able to do it and get it to the end. And the 11 car, Denny Hamlin, hearing almost the same type of radio communication from them. Need a lap from Hamlin, just like Chad needs one from Jimmy.
And then back to that championship leader, Brad Keselowski, now in 12th place, Jamie.
Well, when he pitted last time, by my calculations, 56 laps to the end. So Brad asked his crew chief, how are we looking? They said, we're going to be 4 laps short. Brad said, well, I'm not that good at saving. I'm just going to go all out right now and pass as many as I can.
Yeah, that's about all you can do when you're 4 laps short.
Yeah, and Brad made a great point earlier too, talking about saving fuel. The race pace is at such a high level right now. If you slow down, you're going to lose a lot of spots, and that's not going to do you much good either. And saving that much here, you're talking about 10 miles. That's quite a bit.
So Brad Keselowski last pitted at lap 276. Jimmy Johnson at 279. Denny Hamlin at 280. Clint Bowyer 278. Carl Edwards 272. Greg Biffle 267.
Yeah, the one that I really see him pointing out is this 15 car. He needs to go the same distance that he went the last time. And so they know that they weren't out of fuel the last time, and whatever Clint Bowyer was doing, if he's saving fuel now, he's going fast doing it.
There's one problem, this run here, if it goes green, it'll be green all the way. The run that he went before had a couple of caution laps in there.
So remember, this is a 334 lap race. And a look here at the laps last pitted by the top 5.
One thing you have to look at, though, is the stop before that. Some of them pitted there at that caution, but not everybody reset right there. They had made green flag stops right before the last caution came out. Some of them pitted, some of them didn't.
But we're all in agreement that Clint Bowyer appears to be in the best shape of at least these top 5 drivers for making it to the finish if we don't see a caution from now to the end.
I think Denny Hamlin is too, but Clint Bowyer's in the best shape because he's in front of him.
Yeah. Making a pit stop for fuel would absolutely be your last resort, right?
Yeah.
An all-new ABC Thursday, their own nation turned against them. Now the crew of the USS Colorado is turning on each other. No one's safe aboard the world's most powerful nuclear submarine in the series that's being called a non-stop electrifying thriller. Andre Braugher and Scott Speedman star in Last Resort, all new Thursday, 8/7 Central on ABC.
I'll come back my next life. I won't be like you, Alan. We can tie all this together.
Just talk for a living?
Makes it work pretty good.
All right, well, Dave, we think the 15's in about the best shape of these top 5. How about them?
Well, Alan, Andy observed correctly. The runs were split evenly, but the last run did have a couple of caution flag laps in it. So they've asked Clint, as soon as he was done working some lap traffic, save a little bit of fuel. So I think they can make it based on how well they've run, and based again on what I told you earlier. Brian Patty told me that their fuel mileage map for their motor was set to a very lean, very fuel-saving mode. So Clint, as you said, of those guys that can run the longest, is ahead of him and is in good shape.
Well, one of the problems with, or it's actually a good thing, this fuel injection system adjusts for air density, and we see this air getting denser and denser as it gets cooler. What happens is that can actually change your fuel mileage, and while it's making those adjustments, and it can throw you a curve. They might use more fuel this last run than they expect.
We'll see. Bowyer running in 4th position right now. The pink car, of course, October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Bowyer and his sponsor among many, marking that through their racing program. How's it going to turn out at the finish? We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Bank of America. 500. And a race that has teams on different fuel mileage strategies that could have a big championship implication depending on how this all plays out. Right now, Brad Keselowski's running 12th, Jimmie Johnson 8th, Denny Hamlin 6th. Hamlin, we believe, is good to go to the finish on fuel. Johnson, we find out.
The way we kind of figured, if you only save what you did last time, we'll run across the line and run out of fuel. Since we're doing it for a longer period of time here, we should have a cushion of a half a lap to a lap.
And filter that through Andy's comments a minute ago of how the fuel injection and the weather change and so on might throw you for a loop on this last run with your fuel calculations.
Yeah, and when you calculate it that close, I'm telling you, it makes a big difference if you can make it across the line and you make it to the halfway down the backstretch.
And Brad Keselowski up to 11th position now after running out of fuel while leading at lap 275. Here are some of the top 5 cars hitting pit road for a final stop, Dave.
Yeah, second place, Kyle Busch. They were never going to make it. They would have to come for a splash, so it'll be 2 tires for Kyle and that last little bit of fuel that'll get him to the end. Jamie.
And Mark Martin been solid all night long. Right sides here, 1 can of fuel is the call.
And Greg Biffle gives up the race lead for what will be his final stop. Hands the top spot over to Clint Bowyer. Kasey Kahne also in, Dave.
Oh, and he had to wait for the 51 of A.J. Allmendinger to get out of the way. He's barely in his box. He'll take 2 tires. His car needs a track bar adjustment because it was very loose on this run. Doc.
Yeah, right side tires for Greg Biffle. They're going to take air out of the right front. Then about 5.5 seconds of gas, and he's gone. He got 6 seconds. He should be okay.
So there's Clint Bowyer, now in the race lead. 0.9 of a second ahead of Carl Edwards. 2.2 seconds ahead of Denny Hamlin. Brad Keselowski on the pit lane. 23 to go. Headed to Jamie.
Well, they certainly weren't bluffing. They were not going to make it to the end. It's going to be right sides. 1 can of fuel for Brad Keselowski. Been in great communication with Paul Wolfe through this process. He was hammered down that whole run trying to pass as many cars as possible. But remember, he holds the point lead right now still, Vince.
The 99 of Carl Edwards. He was 5th at Dover just a couple of weeks ago, having another good run tonight. Fuel and right side tires for the 99 of Edwards.
Greg Biffle by Clint Bowyer to unlap himself in the right-hand frame.
You see Carl Edwards trying to get out of the pits quickly. Catches his tire changer just a little bit. Looks like he'll be okay. A little spill.
Ouch. So with Carl Edwards having pitted, here's Aric Almirola in. It now gives Clint Bowyer a 2.3 second lead over Denny Hamlin and a 4-second lead over Jimmie Johnson. Brad Keselowski 16th, a lap down. Now, how many of these cars that are a lap down between Keselowski and the leaders are going to have to pit for fuel? That will play a role in determining the point change on the night also. Here's Tony Stewart in.
Tony Stewart said, "What are we doing, bud?" Steve Addington said, "It's going to be right sides only, and fill it up with 1 can of Sunoco fuel, so it's not completely full, obviously." 6.1. Good stop for right sides.
Here's Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, would have been asking a lot for Matt Kenseth to save enough fuel to get him to the end. So last week's winner will have to give up track position and come down pit road. Quick stop, Doc.
Kevin Harvick on pit road, final stop. He said, guys, the car's just terrible. Tied in, loose off. Needs about 4.5 to 5 seconds of fuel to go ahead and put right side tires on in here for the final stop of the day.
Jeff Gordon is going to come on to pit road also. Another one of those cars couldn't make it to the finish on fuel as Clint Bowyer continues to lead. Here is Doc.
Not the same as we've seen with the other guys. Going to be right side tires for Jeff. Needed about 5.5 to 6 seconds of fuel, so they'll get the tires, don't get the lug nuts nice and tight, and he can lead.
So that should be everyone that has to pit. So the running order we've got now is what it should be till we get to the finish of the race, unless people start running out of gasoline. So we've got Clint Bowyer leading, Denny Hamlin 1.7 seconds back, Jimmy Johnson running in third, then Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Casey Kane, Martin Truex Jr., and now Brad Keselowski is going to move up into the number 10 position. There's Bowyer. And again, remember Keselowski, not only that distance behind Clint Bowyer, but also a lap down to the race leader if the caution were to come out not in position to get a free pass. So the top three are the ones on the racetrack looking to make it to the finish. It's Clint Bowyer there.
It's a big gamble for the 48 and the 11. I mean, I think Denny Hamlin can make it, but well, you're risking a lot if you're going to try to make it. Your numbers show you're short. I think that 48 might be trying to push it here. Vince?
That's right, Andy. Chad Knaus just told Jimmy Johnson, we have to slow down a 10th a lap till the end to make it. I don't know about your calculations, but that's slowing down an awful lot to get to the end. Those guys chasing him from behind, saving the fuel. It's going to be real close.
Yeah, I mean, the slowing down's not going to hurt them too much. If they run out of fuel, it'll kill them, though.
Yeah, they've got a huge lead on Greg Biffle, 23 seconds ahead of him. So they can slow down quite a bit. Just not going to give them a chance to win.
You just see this a couple of weeks ago from Jimmy Johnson at Dover, where he had to slow at the end of the race and got to the finish on fuel.
Get down the end, it looks like it's going to be the 15 thinks they can make it, and maybe the 48 behind you. So just keep doing exactly what you're doing right now. If we get a chance here towards the end, we'll try to run him down.
So Denny Hamlin getting his marching orders from Darian Grubb.
Yeah, he was able, as the 15 of Bowyer was dealing with some lap traffic, he was able to cut about a half a second, a little more. It was actually 2.2 at one time, but it's just under a second and a half right now. So he's been able to shave some of that time off and probably be saving some fuel at the same time. He's just caught the lap traffic at a little better spot.
Let me just update one thing. Brad Keselowski's running in 11th position. Joey Logano, after his final pit stop, has slipped in ahead of Keselowski in the running order on the racetrack. Laps to go right there for Clint Bowyer. Is there enough fuel in that car to make it those 10 laps? Will the caution come out and change the whole picture around?
Okay, this 15 car he was complaining a ton in the beginning of this race about how terrible his car was. And now here he is, Dave, with a chance to win it.
Andy Brian Patty told me this morning that when they came here in May, he was still learning what Clint needed in the race car. They finished 13th. Then came what Brian called their summer of love when they won 2 races and finished an additional 3 times in the top 5. He told me, I know what he wants now, and this is the same car that we raced from the back of the pack to 7th before having alternator problems at Atlanta. They came in confident, but they needed a fuel mileage run to really prove their mettle tonight. They've got it if the caution stays in the starters' hands, Alan.
Dave, thanks. Just after 11 o'clock in the East, just joining us, we're into the final laps of the Bank of America 500, the 5th race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. And we've got a mileage dilemma on our hands. Clint Bowyer, the 15, Denny Hamlin, the 11, Jimmy Johnson, the 48, are all trying to stretch their fuel and get to the finish, while everyone else has made an additional pit stop, and they're 20 or more seconds behind these cars. Do they have enough gasoline to get there, or will they run out in the final lap?
Yeah, and I can't tell you how difficult a situation this is for the leader of the race. You know that you've got to save a little bit of fuel, but to win the race, you know you have to keep this 11 car right there. It's just over a second back. You've got to keep him back there if you're going to have a chance.
And again, just joining us, Jimmy Johnson given instructions by his crew just a moment ago. He needed to back off the gas and slow his pace to try and make it to the checkered flag.
Yeah, he can do it too. He's got 20-second lead or more now over the next place, so he can save a lot of fuel to the end. But you know, I thought if this thing came down to fuel mileage, that it would be the two cars that have the advantage. But now they've turned the table on him tonight.
Brad Keselowski running in 11th position. And he's a lap down to the race leader.
That's insane, man. 5 laps come to the end.
And the 5th car, 1 lap down in the running order. Would see his championship lead cut in half if everything goes to the checkered flag the way it is right now in the running order. Keselowski has led the most laps tonight, more than twice as many as the next driver. But it's going to be, as Andy said just a minute ago, something that's been an advantage for them for much of the season that may come back to bite them tonight, the fuel mileage.
Yeah, that pass doesn't mean anything right there because the two car is a lap down. But he's got a car chasing back there, that 43, that might catch him and put him back another spot.
1 point per position in the NASCAR championship system. Though Keselowski will get the bonus point tonight for leading the most laps in this race. Watching up front, Denny Hamlin creeping in that 11 on the 15 of Clint Bowyer, the race leader. 4 laps to go.
I tell you, this benefits Denny Hamlin. His normal driving style is not to charge the corner, so I think his car's probably operating the way it normally would. Bowyer trying to hold him back here, but it's down to about a half a second now.
That's Carl Edwards in the 99 to the inside. He's the first car 1 lap down, trying to unlap himself on the race leader Bowyer.
Gotta go. 3 more.
Danny's got to go now. Can't save any fuel. Just try to hold off this 11 car. See if they can get to the finish.
Clint Bowyer started the night in 5th position in the championship, 40 points behind the leader. He has to win races and hope the leaders have some troubles to get back into the hunt for this championship.
Well, this is his opportunity, the best one he's going to have right at this point. Get maximum points here.
3 miles to go, 2 more laps.
Looks like Carl Edwards will yield to the leaders.
Tiptoeing around some of the lap cars. Carl Edwards gives way, lets him race for the win. No one between the top 2 now.
But Clint Bowyer right up against the wall making this work. Got 1 more lap to do it.
The white flag is up, and we're into the final lap of the race. There is lap traffic now just ahead of the leaders. Will he have enough fuel? Will he be able to hold off Hamlin? Half a lap to go and still under power. Hamlin looking low, Bowyer sliding wide, coming to the checkered flag. Bowyer's under power, and Clint Bowyer is going to win at Charlotte. Denny Hamlin finishes 2nd. Waiting for Jimmy Johnson. Johnson makes it to the checkers in 3rd. And you can see how far ahead of the 4th place car even that they were, with just 6 left on the lead lap at the end of the night. Mark Martin being the last one. Brad Keselowski will finish 11th. And how about Clint Bowyer?
How about Brian Patty, crew chief on this car? He's engineered some wins for that guy.
Yeah, and how about Michael Waltrip Racing? Another victory. Clint Bowyer's third victory of the year, I believe.
There's the team owner, Michael Waltrip, along with Rob Kaufman. On these mile-and-a-half tracks, they knew they had to step up on it, Dave, and Clint Bowyer and Brian Patty are going to go to victory lane on one tonight.
And Brian Patty just reminded me that he told me today, what did you tell me?
If you're not the fastest car here, you better have options. You know, we played the strategy correct. Fuel mileage was great. TRD. 5-hour energy, it's 3 wins in a year is pretty big, and hopefully this will get us back in the chase.
You said you weren't out of it, but you weren't exactly in it. Are you in it now?
Hell yeah, we're going for it.
Brian Patty winning crew chief tonight on a big gamble that paid off.
Brian Patty has maintained all along that they just wanted to get down to the final race of the season with a mathematical shot at it. As tonight certainly helps. Enough fuel to the checkered flag, not enough to get back to victory lane, though.
Go help him get there.
Clint might just think he's back in Kansas on a Saturday night short track. That's where he always went to victory lane.
There they go. The celebration on for the winner. Denny Hamlin comes up with second tonight, Vince.
Second place, not what he wanted, but in the big picture, you cut into that lead in the championship, and for the championship chase, that's a successful night.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I want to know how much fuel I got left. I saved so much, and Darian just waited a really long time to cut me loose to go, and I still didn't go to full capability. Man, it's hard to, you know, we could have left a race win on the table here, but still a big picture. It was a good day for our FedEx Crown Toyota.
How difficult is it to save fuel and try to save fuel in those final laps when you know the victory is just out ahead of you?
That's impossible. I mean, it just goes against everything that we've ever learned as race car drivers. You know, fuel saving, usually when you get terrible fuel mileage, that means you're in the gas, and that's what we're taught to do as kids. And so to back all that up and, you know, to go in a fuel save mode, I knew what I had to do. I'd afford to let the 15 beat me, but I couldn't get behind the 48 and 2 right there. So we'll take second and move on.
Second place tonight, third in the championship, 15 points down. Jamie?
And Jimmy Johnson brings it home third tonight. When you cut into that lead, 7 points separate you and Brad Keselowski now. But what were those closing laps like, knowing you had to save as much as you did?
Well, I knew I did a good job. We started saving with double the distance, so I knew we were going to be fine, and we're just being really cautious and didn't want to go up there and chase the 11 and get ourselves in trouble. So we're getting a lot better at this fuel mileage racing. It's a tough thing to do. We've worked hard to get it right. We're still not the best car out there, but you know, we're making it work week in and week out, and that's it's part of the game right now for whatever reason. So happy to have this Milo's car in third. Glad to gain on the 2 car, and we'll go to the next one. This thing's still wide open for anybody.
Absolutely. Another good night for the 48. Doc?
And our points leader is still our points leader, Brad Keselowski, a 7-point lead, 140 laps led, great race car, but tonight the fuel mileage bit you, something that's been good for you most of the year.
Yeah, you know, it's like playing blackjack. Sometimes you're going to get a good deal, but you're not going to win them all. You know that, and you hope that when you're sitting there with 13 that you can, you know, just not have a lot of chips in the pile. We didn't. You know, we didn't lose too much. We got 11th out of a day where everything kind of fell against us from cautions at the beginning, the lack of them at the end, and we still put out a respectable effort. So good day. Like I said, led a bunch of laps, which helps to make up for, you know, not getting a top 10, but still would like to get those other few spots, but you're not going to catch them breaks every time, and we still made the most out of it.
They asked you about saving fuel. You said, I don't think I can save that much. I'm going to go for it. So you went ahead and put the throttle down. Do you think now you could have saved enough to make a difference?
I don't know. I need to sit back and watch the race and see how it all played out. It's hard to tell. I don't have the whole picture yet, so it's hard for me to say.
All right, Brad Keselowski, 7-point lead leaving Charlotte. Guys?
And Clint Bowyer's crew still pushing that car.
Yeah, they could have pushed it through the little quarter-mile opening that they had, but the fans were all cheering. They just pushed it all the way down the straightaway and came in on the entrance of pit road.
We talked about tonight what a big deal it is to win at the hometown track.
It is a big deal.
Of all the teams. And let's take a snapshot of the championship picture. So Jimmie Johnson was 14 behind entering the night. He's cut that in half. Denny Hamlin gained 12 points on the lead. Clint Bowyer also gaining 12 points on the lead. Kasey Kahne is basically even on where he started the night in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup as we're halfway through the championship.
I'm sorry, but I think Kasey Kahne has to be a little disappointed. I think this was one of those races that they targeted to gain points.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, but I think he's still in it. I think at least those top 5, if not even Greg Biffle, still have a shot at this thing.
Well, while they wheel this 15 car into victory lane, the drivers already made it there. Victory lane presented by Tire Rack.
Alan, looks a whole lot like Richmond, where Clint walked into victory lane. 3 on the year for you, and in a big way tonight, Clint. How's it feel?
And I tell you, first and foremost, thank you to everybody at MWR. Who thought in a million years I'd walk in a situation I walked into with 5-Hour Energy, everybody with this pink car, the Avon Foundation, the pink lemonade, new flavor, my teammates, Martin Truex and Mark Martin. I mean, it's just a total team effort. TRD, I'm telling you, they stepped up in a big way with the motor department. Just want to thank everybody. 5-Hour, Napa, Aaron's for sponsoring us all. Toyota, Sprint, those fans up there that came out. I mean, it's just what a wild race. I want to do a burnout. Am I ever going to get to do a burnout?
If you save some more fuel. Now, there's a reason they ask you to save a little bit of fuel, because after Gasman Mike packed that thing full of fuel, they calculated it, well, and they wrote a number on the wall, the pit box there, 333.5. It was close.
I don't know what that means, but
it's a 334 lap race.
I just hold wheel, turn left into the straightaway. That's what I do. But man, I'm telling Brian Patty, the team that he's assembled around me is second to none. Just very proud of these guys. Very proud of everybody. I mean, we've had cars all year long capable of winning. To be able to win 3 times for me and everybody's has led laps, and we just had a great year. So thank you to Michael, Rob Kaufman for taking a chance on me, and just everybody. Man, I love these guys. It's so much fun. Sprint and fans, like I said, thank you.
Clint Bowyer fighting his way back into the chase, albeit quietly, Alan.
And on the strength, now that the car's made it there, of a win at a 1.5-mile track, Kansas Clint Bowyer goes to Kansas Speedway a week from tomorrow, where he gets the shot at back-to-back 1.5-mile track wins and to further strengthen his championship bid. Martinsville, Texas, Phoenix, and Homestead, Miami to round out this championship. It's going to be interesting down the stretch. Thoughts on what you saw here tonight?
Just what a great race. I mean, we saw good racing, side-by-side racing, a lot of different leaders, but the plots, the twists and turns through all of this, and making this battle for the championship a little bit closer. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, you talk about how it changed. Clint Bowyer was complaining so much about his race car early in the race. You thought he was just going to finish a lap down, and then they come back and win this thing on strategy for another win. I think you really got to hand it to Brian Patty, the crew chief on this car, too.
So Brad Keselowski, the championship leader starting the night, leads the most laps and continues that trend where the guy that leads the most laps doesn't win. And Clint Bowyer finally with a car to take the photos on. Is in victory lane, celebrating a huge homecoming weekend victory at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Greg Biffle finished 4th tonight, Vince.
He had a real fast race car down at the end, too. You guys took a big swing at it to get it where you got it, but nice night for you. Cut into the championship lead as well.
Yeah, we had a great night. 3 and Ford Fusion was fast all night. We had IDG on the car here tonight, but it just, I was too loose all night, and I just didn't take big enough swings at it. I didn't want to get tight, because when you get tight here, it's miserable. And there about 100 to go, we took a big swing at the car, and she really took off. We started turning the fastest lap times, but we had so much track position to make up. And then, you can't beat the fuel mileage. We're just not in that game to be able to go as far as those guys were going. So it hurts to get beat on fuel mileage, but we were the first car of the 3 that made it on fuel mileage. So I feel pretty good with 4th.
Fast tonight, 4th, and now 6th in the standings, 43 points out. Jamie?
Well, for the 3rd time in the chase, you're the best non-chaser, Kyle. It's got to be a relief to have a good night, a solid night, and bringing home top 5 to finish one of these things.
Yeah, it was. Darn fuel mileage played against us again, but it's good for the 11 and those guys. They come home P2, so Toyota won, so that's always cool, of course, and Bowyer and those guys. But our M&M's Camry was fast. I mean, we had a really good race car, and I felt like we had a winning car, barring circumstances and how they played out, but just wasn't there for us there at the end, and with the strategy and everything. So Can't say enough about all the guys, though. They fought hard. Yesterday, we fought a lot of the problems that we fought tonight, but we had a better driving car tonight. Seemed like at least better than some other guys anyways, and, you know, we come home okay.
All right, Kyle Busch brings it home 5th.
Headline of the night at Charlotte will obviously be the driver who pulled into victory lane, that being Clint Bowyer, who entered this night 40 points behind the leader, Brad Keselowski. Right now, he is 28 points behind and in victory lane for the 3rd time this season. But I want to talk about the guy who finished 2nd, the guy who is currently 3rd in points, Denny Hamlin. Some smart racing out of him. Last weekend in Talladega, he said he almost took the weekend off to play it safe in that very up-in-the-air race. This weekend, he had to play it safe again with fuel mileage. What are we seeing out of Denny Hamlin?
Well, we're seeing a smart racer, a guy that's going for points. You know, I would have bet you, and I think I did bet some of you this week, that this race was not going to come down to fuel mileage.
Yeah.
It is showing me that the sport is changing. And what's really neat is it's not about having the fastest car. Even if you got the fastest car, like Clint Bowyer and his crew chief said, you got to play this strategy. And it's showing me that Denny Hamlin and his guys are learning to play that. Even though their car is fast, they're getting what they have to get to stay close to that point lead.
Yeah, it's a maturation process for that race team. Darian Grubb comes over, brings a tremendous amount of experience. He's got an engineering background, and they're making good decisions that have been solid all year long. So now we're looking at this race. I'm telling you, Denny Hamlin is a serious threat to win this championship. Brad Keselowski, Paul Wolfe, they stumbled a little bit tonight. We saw a little chink in the armor. But I tell you what, Denny Hamlin is a serious threat.
Well, I tell you what, I'm liking the top 3. I really am. I mean, these guys are all smart. I mean, what Bowyer's done for saving fuel is amazing. And what Denny Hamlin's done, driving really, really smart. And Johnson, I'm telling you what, he led some laps tonight. He looked fantastic. And he was smart. This fuel mileage thing is getting to be a little bit out of hand, though. It seems like it all is lately. It's just fuel mileage racing. And a lot of these drivers want to hammer down and go for it, just like Denny Hamlin said earlier.
Well, it will be interesting to see what we get next weekend at Kansas. Of course, this is another unknown, the newly repaved Kansas. A bit of a wild card. What are you expecting?
It is, but I'm expecting the same thing. You know, we've talked about there being less cautions overall, and I think that's because Goodyear is bringing a really durable tire. These guys are getting the cars so bulletproof. The guys are doing a good job driving them. It's forcing these fuel mileage races, and because with the new electronic fuel injection, they can predict so accurately what they're doing. It's really making a difference in the races.
Well, we'll be at Kansas next weekend for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. The Cup Series next Sunday, 1 on ESPN. We will see you then.
A superstar spends their life pushing the limits. There's a certain pressure to be at your best when the lights are brightest.
Matt Kenseth around in turn 4.
Picking up a little bit, picking up.
That's what being a superstar is all about. Absolutely killing it.
Coasting to his pit stall, Brad Keselowski may be out of fuel.
Oh, we're going to need a little help here.
Clint Bowyer is going to win at Charlotte.